All right, guys, we are now live. This is round 2 of our October test flight live winner reveal. I don't know how we went 35 minutes before I heard that things weren't working right. We had a ton of viewers, and then it just fell off. So, again, if you can hear me on this particular thing, we're gonna take a couple of minutes because I want everyone who's viewing this to, especially our core guys who tune in a lot for these live winner reveals, to just drop a note and say, hey, you know what, I'm watching this, I can hear it, things like that. So I'm going to give a few minutes here, and we'll see if it works, and we're going to test, make sure that everyone can hear, everyone can see, and then we'll jump right in. And unfortunately, because we lost so much time, it's going to probably be a very quick episode this time, probably about an hour, a little over an hour maybe. So we'll go from there. But so yep, so we'll see here. Let's see. Let's see. So as I said, I do apologize for the pauses here. I'm just trying to make sure that the video is working. It was working before, but evidently there was some issue from some of our viewers. So just trying to see here if this is working now. Okay, great. So 10 of us can hear me, so it looks like it is kind of going well. I do apologize. I said earlier a couple of quick things, just very quickly. My name is Frederick Jones. I'm the founder of MyFutprint Entertainment, which is the parent company behind Saturday AM, Saturday Plus, Well Read, and several other platforms that we publish graphic content on. It is 6-something right now. Today's episode is our live winner reveal. We're going to run through several people who've submitted their comics to be looked at and critiqued by us. It is Halloween, which we're having a whole day full of Halloween events. I'm going to keep this show very quick because we lost 35 minutes before because I've got to finish doing some stuff for the site for No to Heaven, which is our very first horror manga webcomic by a young man, by myself, and a young man named William Brody, who's a phenomenal young artist. In this episode, my dog is here, as she always is, on the floor asleep, hopefully. You guys have driven me to drink, so I'm having some good old Mike's Hard Lemonade now. And we're going to be getting started here right now. We will take a slight break in the interim, of course, to run through and discuss some of the cool things that we do. For those of you who are new and don't really know much about myself or Saturday AM, but what I will say, just for those of you who are new to us, is that our entire existence is based on the notion of creating manga and original intellectual property comics that speak to a more international reality. I was an executive in the video game industry, went as high as VP, and worked on a lot of properties, from doing some stuff with Naruto to Nintendo to Yu-Gi-Oh! And so on. And I was always only African American in the room, always. And it was something that when I started my own company, I knew that I wanted to create a platform that would empower and exploit the opportunities of seeing content that is created by different types of people and it featured different types of people. And so Saturday AM is the genesis of that. And so I'm really proud of what we've produced today. We have got 35 issues, our 35th issue is coming out hopefully soon, of original content packed every single issue from creators around the world. We are a creator-owned company, meaning that every series that we actually publish is owned by the writer and artist who produce them. And our brand is powerful. It's unique. It's something that's getting a lot of traction around the world, and we've even inspired quite a few people. Some people who who've tried to create competitive product to us because they couldn't work with us. We didn't allow them to stay in the group for very long for various things that they did, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. That we are inspiring people to change comic books for everybody is a great thing. We were inspired, and we're hoping to inspire others. And so PILOT Manga, which is our group dedicated to discovering new talent, a community that is 400 strong in just over a year. And this is not anybody can join. People have to submit to join, and then we allow them into the group depending on how things shake out and so forth. And we're just really pumped about PILOT Manga. It's produced artists like Leonardo Massip of Islanders, which you can read the first part of his comic today on our site for free. Frederick Ward, who produces Comet Man, about a young French teenage girl who becomes a superhero. I mean, that's diversity, and Frederick Ward is African American at that. Philippa Borman, Regina Cora, and so many great creators have started coming through that process. Many people don't know, but Mythocalypse Nova started with us, and we really love Mikhail. We're happy to see Mikhail doing what he does. But at the end of the day, we knew that what we were trying to build was only going to actually work the way that we intended it to by creating a group like PILOT Manga where we could actually help develop the talent in our voice so that they could actually meet the demands of what we're trying to do to the overall webcomic community. And as I said before, there's a lot of guys out there, Mikhail included, who are doing great things on their own, but we're the only ones who are at 35 issues and counting. We're the only ones who have a line of graphic novels and webcomics, and we've got a lot more things we're doing that will excite and shock people in the coming months and coming years. So today's test flight is another part of that gigantic puzzle and revolution that we're trying to kick off, where we look at new talent, we critique them, and if things are successful, then they go into our sister publication, which is called Saturday Plus. And so I'm going to let you now see a bit of our site here. You're not going to have to look at my ugly mug. And I'm not even dressed up for Halloween. Isn't that sad? I'm not even dressed up for Halloween because I just don't have the time. But why don't we do a screen share, and we'll let you guys check out our site. So if you are new to Saturday AM, here is a great glimpse of Saturday AM. At the top, you can see Yumi, who is the main character of Saigami, here on the left side. It's the only girl on the page. Next to her is Sal from Bully Eater. Next to him, on the other side of the Saturday AM logo, is Turbino of Islanders. And last is Sano from Apple Black. These are 4 very popular series. They're the core parts of our digital magazine, Saturday AM, but we're so much more than that. As I said before, just scroll down here, you can see issue 34, which is our last issue we released, features another superstar in the making, Christopher Crady, and this is the lead character, Anthony, who is the main character of a series called Monster Society of America. Again, exclusive to Saturday AM, as all of our titles are. You can only find it on our site. You can only find Monster Society in our digital magazine. Likewise, we produce a digital magazine called Saturday Plus. The Saturday Plus features extraordinary talent, many of which will come from this test flight. We also have Test Run, which is a series of short stories. So unlike a lot of other websites you go to where you check out webcomics, with us, we don't believe in just letting people kind of discover themselves and the thing. We work best with creators, hence why we have our PILOT Manga program that understand how you create a brand, how you create a real series, that's what they want to do, that's what they're trying to do. And when we find that right synergy between the talent levels, then Test Run is a piece of that. So is Saturday Plus. But Test Runs are short stories. They're just short stories. They can contain characters that are part of a larger series, but they're meant to be short stories that simply showcase the creator's ability to actually tell a story. So much of webcomics are examples of frustration where so many artists and writers really don't know how to tell a story, but they're kind of putting 2 things together, and because the web is free, they can throw it up there online, and then you try reading it, and you're like, damn, what is this? Well, Test Run is really a great example of when we give creators some guidance and put them in the mold of how we try to do things at Saturday AM, what they can produce. And we've got an excellent test run right now called Sophic, which is really great. And so, again, if you're checking us out for the first time, do check out our test run series. If you're looking to go on websites and check out webcomics, you don't have 5 years to read someone's 80-chapter epic that maybe takes 3 years in between chapter 2 and 3. Instead, you can go on our site, you can check out fantastic, very short, 15-page stories that feature really great artwork and fantastic ideas. You can see Monster Society of America got its start here, so you can read that for free. There's Action Land. There's Grigore by William Brody, who's the artist of our first horror comic that debuts tonight called No to Heaven. If you want to come on our site and read manga, we have tons of free manga as well. So you can come onto our site, you can check out our manga. You can see here, again, unlike a lot of other websites that have literally thousands of manga, and they promote this as if it's a big thing. It's never been a big thing to me. I can't read thousands of comics, but I do want to read the best comics. And so that's why we have a very focused group here. And you can see here diversity for us really means something, both in terms of the characters, the people who create the content, people from all over the world, from Africa, from Hungary, from Mexico, and so on, from Cuba. But you can see we've got Apple Black, we've got Spoon, we've got so many titles that you can just check. You can click the box, go directly to those pages, and read that content. So, but again, we try to keep it very focused. And so while we have less titles than many of these other websites, what you will find is that each one of these series have tons of chapters. Spoon and Storybook are both over 30 chapters each. Remedium Plus is one of the newer series that debuted within our Pilot Manga group. Again, you can get the test flight. You can get to our test run series here. You can go to Saturday Plus there. We also have some short stories from some of our top creators like Candlejack by White Manga, creator of Apple Black. Ox King by Bully Eaters creator Raymond Brown. Dreamwalker by Andrea Voros, creator of Sagami. So again, check us out. We're going to go ahead and get started now, though, with the test flight for October. And again, I'm running through things very quickly because we wasted 35 minutes earlier. So so bear with me as the site loads up here. And one thing I do want to do here is, if you want to become a part of Pilot Manga, if you want to join us, it's very simple. Just go onto the Pilot Manga page. You can see the link at the top of our navigation bar on our website. Go there, and you can find all the rules. You can go to our official forum, Writers Challenge, the test runs, and of course the October test flight. I want to click the October test flight rules for a second because we're going to be touching on this in this episode. One of the things that's fascinating with me in this is how the rules sometimes don't get followed very well. And again, this is one of the things that we really look at. You can see here some of the great talent that exists in our Pilot Manga group. Not all these guys actually participate in this test flight, but nonetheless, you can see here our great diversity with some of these great diverse characters on our series. You can see some of our T-shirts in our marketplace there. But ultimately, the idea here was that any genre be accepted. What they had to create was a short story. This was a two-page minimum or a 5-page maximum. So this is not even a test run. This is a couple of pages where someone can actually tell a coherent story from start to finish. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Illustrations, we just want to see 3 pieces of original art. So we want to see maybe a cover for your series, a turnaround featuring your hero or villain, whichever has the best character design. And finally, an ad, 728 by 90. Last but not least was a 1-page description of Subnosis. So again, very simple. Any genre, short story, 2 pages minimum, 5 pages maximum. The content had to, involve the characters and essentially explain what's happening and offer, a story. I want to read something of whether someone's doing something and he had, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end, basically. Illustrations, 3 pieces of art. Their cover, an ad that had the dimensions here, 728 by 90, and finally a turnaround of your main villain or hero, and a 1-page description. All right, everybody got that? These are the rules. Now we're going to jump into this test flight. This is our, I think, like 11th test flight that we've done. So we're going to jump into the next one. So I'm going to stop the screen share so I can pull stuff up. Actually, I could have just gone right into it. Dang it. Don't you love when that happens, guys? When you click it, you're like, damn it, I did the wrong thing. We are a curse-free zone. I mean, we are a curse-positive zone here, everybody. Okay. I'd like to introduce you to Selwar Farizi. Now, this is what Selwar said to us, Gold Island. I actually like the artwork here. Problem is that this is not any dimension that we can work with. This is not 728 by 90. Doesn't really tell me much about it, but I do like the art. So I'm actually intrigued to see this. The problem is that there is nothing to see. So we submitted a 2-page story that had literally, that was literally 66 megabytes per image. So we can't open it. We can open it, we can download it, but we don't download it. We make this very clear to you guys religiously. Everything must go through Dropbox. It must be accessible on Dropbox. When we can't open your file and we're forced to download it, we just dismiss it. And the reason is very simple, because running a company in the digital age is rife for exploitation. Meaning that if someone sends you a file, a zip file or a file, you have to download to read it, that can contain viruses and all sorts of stuff. And because we're a global company, because we're very open to being a global company, then that means that we have to be very cautious, because we don't know who's submitting stuff to us. We want people to submit stuff to us, but we actually pay for Dropbox for this very reason, so that we can actually have a dedicated, good quality service that we can use to access content. And so, unfortunately, Selwar Farizi's entry just doesn't exist, because he didn't follow the rules. And not just follow the rules on that level, as I said before. In Selwar's case, he had lots of options. Selwar could have presented to us, you know, he had to present the 1-page document. He had to present to us lots of things, but he didn't. And so that's the challenge that we have. So let me say up front that you know, this is not any way to condemn Selwar. I hope to see something from Selwar in the future, because Selwar's stuff looks great. But at least the little thing I saw for Selwar looks great. But this is the challenge that we have. And one of the things I say in test flights, if you guys have seen the videos in the past, is that, you know, we're a small company. I mean, you know, that we do what we do it because we are big fans of the webcomic community. We want to give back to the webcomic community, but when we get stuff like this, and Selwar is a good example, you know, he was very vocal in our PILOT Manga group on our Facebook page, very, very vocal. Hey, check me out, I want you to see my stuff. And perhaps English is not his first language, or perhaps some of the stuff that was written, if the internet connection wasn't great, didn't come through to him exactly, so he understood what the rules were. All these things are very, very simple things that happen, and it happens to all of us. I can't speak foreign languages myself, except for a little bit of Japanese. So again, in no way does any of this stuff condemn someone to not being able to work with us. But these are sort of things that, you know, for us, when we look at this, the main thing that we pull away from it is that, you know, if you seem like you're going to be a lot of effort on our part to have to manage, then we can't work with that. And we can't work with that because it means then that we have to put even more time into managing you. And we just don't have the time for that. We're producing 35 issues. We've got a line of physical print graphic novels that we do. We've got trading cards. We've got other webcomics that we do. We've got an ebook line that's coming up in the future. We've got other really big things that we'll be talking about in 2016. We have so much stuff that we're doing that to manage more than the 17 creators around the world that we deal with today, we simply don't have the ability to do that. So, again, I say to you guys, let that be a lesson in terms of Selwar Farizi's entry. He's not the only one, by the way. We're going to hit a few more of these. And that's why we're going to blow through this thing very quickly. So, Selwar, do want to see stuff from you in the future. Don't send it again. Wait till the next test flight. Follow those rules. Send it in appropriately. All right, so this is this next entry is from Theodore Iolini. And Theodore, I do apologize if I am not pronouncing your name correctly. I do apologize for that. Hopefully I am. But Theodore is a second here. One thing I want to say in the future as well, guys, as I just was talking about Selwar and now Theodore, one thing that would be great, because again, it's something that we take a lot of pride in, is that when you guys are submitting your entries, do tell us where you're from. Tell us what country you're from. It's just a small thing, but we do love the idea of being able to know, you know, the people that we're talking to and dealing with and so on like that. It's just great to see the reach that we're having, and also tell us about what the manga scene is in respective countries. Theodore Iolini, again, I don't know where Theodore is from. Theodore, so there are a couple of things here that stood out to me. One, Theodore's story is the short story is that it's the end of a great war, and the son of a great king from that great war, is the main character, is born, and at the age of 15, he ends up making a friend with a kid named Aiko, who becomes his best friend and his teacher. And their goal is to obtain 3 crystals and defeat the evil organization led by the same villain who helped start the outcome of the Great War. That's the plot. The pitch is Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, and Naruto. So right off the bat, there are 2 things that just as soon as I read this a couple of days ago, or about a week ago now, that threw me was that, number one, this is literally Naruto. Like, you can drop out the Lord of the Rings, you can drop out the Star Wars. This is Naruto, and this is one of the things we talk about a lot about fanboy fiction. This is Naruto. I don't know Theodore, don't know him to save my life, but this is Naruto, and we'll see why this is Naruto shortly. But first of all, the backstory that Theodore provides is very long. This doesn't follow the rules that we talk about with backstory. This is very, very involved backstory about this king who, 40 years ago, who was betrayed and all this very stuff. Literally Naruto with the Hokage, the first Hokage, and so on. Not only that, but then the villain that you'll see here, who leads the evil organization we could call Akatsuki from Naruto, literally looks like Madara. So this is the first thing I say, is that, guys, again, if you want to be a storyteller, be a storyteller. If you are trying to just live out your fantasy of doing Naruto or Dragon Ball or Final Fantasy the way that you want to do it, then you need to go to a website that doesn't care what you're producing and just will upload anything that you do. Because that's not, when you look at the stuff, the content that we have, and you see the stuff that we really get excited about, these are types of things that we don't. And I look at Theodore's stuff, and I see some real talent here, so that's what makes it a little frustrating, is that there was real talent here. Again, whether or not this is talent for him to actually be a writer or artist, I'm not ready to say that. Some people that's obvious, some people that's not. It's not obvious in Theodore's case, but clearly he's got talent as an artist. His style is very similar to Kishimoto's. I think that's obvious here. The main villain here, you can see he's kind of hanging up this kind of pentagram thing. He's kind of the Madara character. I did like this character design, from the bad guy's henchman, which is this guy's got this kind of ghost lizard face. I'm not sure what you call that, but it was kind of neat. But really, all this is basically this 5-page story is literally characters talking about the Great War and why they need to get the crystal. That's it. This is essentially a teaser for the series. This is not a short story. There's no beginning, there's no middle, there's no end. There's nothing happening here. A short story is, again, if you're using Naruto as an example, is, Naruto takes a mission, he has to get a cat, the cat's up on a tree, he has to figure out what power he can use to get the cat down, and through that we learn about Naruto's trials and tribulations of trying to become a great ninja and learning how to use ninjutsu and things like that. That is a short story that fits into a larger narrative. This is not. This is literally a teaser for this young man's series, and so, and so again, this is just a negative across the board here. Again, there's some opportunity here. I mean, there's stuff here where you can see this young man could have some real talent, but again, a lot of stuff here that's not great. Like, here are the images of the characters that are engaged in some stuff here in terms of they're having a discussion. There's speed lines for no reason, because there's no action that actually happens here. Furthermore, we see a lot of the same shots of these characters from the neck up. I don't know if this artist feels comfortable doing body shots, but literally, you're seeing here all the images that I've got, and there's really no full body shots here. There's no different perspectives, and so this just, this is just not ready for prime time, to put it bluntly. Here's the full body shot of the main character. Again, very much like Madara. So, again, I'm being very blunt about my feelings about this. Last Crystal was not something that I looked at very strongly. So, I would say to Theodore, to really shed the Naruto thing, focus on just your art, try to do your perspective shots and things, and really get into the art side of things before you start thinking about a story. this was not really a story, and this was not really a comic concept. This really feels like a Naruto idea. But as I always say to people, again, I give out truth bombs because I care about you guys. I don't feel the need to try to treat you guys like your children and go, oh, this is really good, and then say you didn't win. I'm just going to tell you this is not great. But if you disagree with that, which many people certainly are welcome to do, Smack G's, Tapastic, there's so many sites that would be glad to take your stuff because it's just part of their business model, but it's not for us. So that is Last Crystal. But again, I do hope that Theodore continues drawing because I think there's some real talent capabilities there, and eventually we can see some stuff. Okay, so now let us go back here. We're going to go to the next one. And this is Nganga Zuma. Nganga, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. I actually love your name. I just wish I'm pronouncing it correctly, I hope. This was an interesting concept. It's called the Seal. So Nganga did follow the rules. He produced the various things that we asked for here. And so this was an interesting entry to me. This was a very, very interesting entry. Let me get it here to the plot page so I can read it to you guys. Let's see here. Okay. So basically, first of all, his pitch was good. I like the pitch a great deal. The idea here is Resident Evil meets Game of Thrones. Now, it's a little ambitious, but I like the general. I mean, this was two really strongly identified concepts that I can look at and go, oh, okay, that's interesting. The basic plot here is that two kingdoms, the kingdom of Arago and the kingdom of Armala, have been at war for centuries. The amount of bloodshed by the soldiers on the battlefield and the innocents caused an ancient seal to break and unleash upon the world a curse. Now, of course, he never really goes into what the curse is, but I assume if he's talking about Resident Evil, the curse is some sort of demon, zombie, creature, whatever. The breaking of the seal is only known by a high official in both kingdoms. Therefore, they decided to create secret units to locate and fix the seals in the case of the kingdom of Arago. But for the other kingdom, it's the opposite. They want to use the seal as a tool to win the war. So this was a really interesting idea. I mean, when I was reading through it and I read the short story, this was a really interesting idea. Like, this is one of the more interesting plots that was submitted to us. So I was relatively intrigued with this. Let me read my notes here. Now, one of the things that bothered me was that the creator immediately contradicts himself. Because then in the ad that he does, which is I think the first thing here, you see here he's got Resident Evil meets Final Fantasy. So Final Fantasy is not Game of Thrones. Final Fantasy is kind of a typical fanboy retreat that we see a lot of artists and creators get involved in. So, like I said, the plot was good, and so I'm not going to hold it against him. But I did, that was immediately something I saw, and I thought to myself, okay, all right. Again, fanboy stuff getting caught in there. Like I said, with a pitch, guys, remember, it doesn't have. Let me say this about a pitch. When the pitch is something that you love, in terms of like it's Naruto and you're all excited about Naruto, that's really what you want to do, meets Batman. When you kind of pull it out of your butt, anyone who hears you do a pitch knows that you're a Naruto fanboy because they can see how excited you are about it. And the question you got to ask yourself is, are you telling a real story? Because if you're telling a real story, then the concept you pull together may not have shit to do, pardon my French, but they might not have shit to do with what you actually enjoy. I've never read Gone with the Wind, but I know what it's about. And if I have a pitch tomorrow that's Gone with the Wind meets Superman, then damn, Gone with the Wind meets Superman. I'm not a big fan of either of those things, but, there you go. So, try to really be more concerned with your story and less concerned about your fandom, because your fandom always comes through and then dooms you in other ways. So looking at the art here, the art's really good. I think the art's great. I mean, it's got room for improvement, but again, this is what we're about, is amateur artists who have real talent. And the art here is very good. Nganga did some really good stuff here. The backgrounds, I really enjoyed the backgrounds here. I thought the background was great. So yeah, I enjoyed this a great deal. The short story itself, was relatively useless. There's no dialogue in it except for this idea about a dream. So the story was I mean, there's no story here. This is not a winning entry. Let me put it like that. But I do like this creator. I think this creator has some talent. I don't know if he's a writer, but there's some really good stuff here. I mean, this background shot's really dynamic. This is some great different use of structure here with the 3 panels of the kid emerging from some sort of fog and dream and stuff. There's some good stuff here. This young man, Nganga Zuma, has some real talent. I like the character designs a little bit. A little bland in terms of his color choices. I mean, he's got the one character who is a character of color. I like that a great deal. And I love this image here of like the stone statue of this woman who looks like a black woman or an African woman. I mean, I was, like I said, really taken with the plot that was revealed, and I really like Nganga's artwork. I, again, don't think Nganga is a creator of a story. I think he might be maybe again a creator who needs a writer to work with him. But this was promising, but this is not sufficient for what we're trying to do for this particular test flight. But this is but Nganga has some real talent, and I hope to see more from him in the future. Okay, so we've got a couple of comments. Again, if you guys have comments, please feel free to post them in our Facebook page. I am going to address a comment real quickly, and then we'll move on to our next entry, which is by Max Mattinson. And so I'll pull that up right now. It's called Kicker. Let me get to my notes on that, and then I'll go to this question. Again, if you have questions, you can put it on our YouTube page. If you have the Google Chrome Hangouts app, you can put it in our Hangouts. You've got several places you can put it, your question. So feel free to post questions if you have them. Let's see here. Okay, well, Kinshaw Michaud said, said that he wishes he had entered, but you know he couldn't. His senior year's kicking his butt. And guys, school is by far the most important thing. So everyone, if you're in school, please. I love the young people who support Saturday AM, and I think some of the guys that we dealt with earlier and who are in this test flight are very young, I think. But nonetheless, but school is important. I actually have this conversation quite a lot with family. I've got a child. I talk a lot to people who have children. I'm a real big believer in this new generation, your generation, for many of you guys, it's the smartphone generation, that you guys are walking into a world that's going to kick your butt because everything is moving so rapidly with engineering and social engineering and artificial intelligence, robotics, that you really have to have an education and be trained in a couple of key areas to really survive in this new economy that's coming up. So, you know, again, I hope Saturday AM is a game changer for many of you guys, but at the end of the day, school should always come first. Put your effort in school, and then put your effort in what we're trying to do. So that's that. Let's see here, and then, okay, so Andre Roberts is telling me he's from Jamaica. Manga scene there is not really big, so that's interesting. I didn't know that, but you know, that's interesting. We do have a guy from Jamaica. Andrew Sterling is from Jamaica. I believe he's from Jamaica. He's from Jamaica or the Bahamas. Jamaica, I believe. He's Jamaican. But he lives in Canada now. But he's from Jamaica. Andrew Sterling, of course, the creator of Storybook, one of our great mangas. And David Greer wrote, he says, I cut real deep. I cut real deep and dry. I like that, though. I just hope you would get to the writing contest. We're not going to get the writing contest today, guys, because we lost that 35 minutes. I was behind the 8 ball anyway, because like I said, I've got to try to get get stuff finished for No to Heaven, which may not happen at 10 o'clock tonight, but you know, definitely come out tonight. But I've still got to finish some stuff up with that, so probably not going to happen. So, but we'll do the writers contest next weekend for sure, and then we'll move to the next phase of that. And again, someone like Nganga Zuma, this is the sort of thing I'm talking about. We're trying to find more writers. We need more writers. And the first time I did the video earlier tonight, one thing I talked about was how, you know, like I said, I've been running myself ragged today. I had to see my mother off to pick up, you know, because she was getting on the train to go visit my little sister. I had to walk my dog a couple of times. I had to, you know, do some stuff on the web, put up islanders and stuff like that. And this is all stuff I'm doing on a day off from my job that pays my bills, and conversely, didn't have time to get candy for these kids. So that's why, again, we ask for you guys to take the test flight seriously instead of submitting stuff that's not everything we ask for. Take it seriously because we're taking time on our schedules to do this. And number two is that the fact that, like I said, I'm behind schedule on so many of these things that I have to do in my own life. Again, these are sort of things that you look at, and for us that we say to you guys then that we're perfectly comfortable not being the home for everybody who has a webcomic. What we would love to have happen is that with the stuff that we're doing with Saturday AM, PILOT Manga, Saturday Plus, is for it to be an inspiration to you guys, for some of you guys to say, you know what, I'm not going to be a writer, I'm not going to be an artist. It's not that I can't write, it's not that I can't draw, it's that I don't want to be in a pressure situation trying to do that. Instead, though, I do love comics, or I'm a fanboy. I can write Naruto fan fiction or draw Naruto fan fiction, but that's not really my thing. But I know Photoshop, and I want to be involved in the comic industry. And these guys are willing to work with me as a volunteer for design, or for editing, or for writing for blogs and things, interviews, for lettering. I mean, there's so many tools that you guys can actually learn working with us in ways that are not writing and drawing comics that would be hugely impactful for everybody. And so I would say again, for some people to have that come to Jesus moment. The sad part is that I actually can draw, but I knew at a very early age that I don't have the time to draw a picture. I'm not interested in drawing bricks that make up a background, and many of you guys aren't either. And so I do find it a little amazing that I came to that realization at the age of 12, even though I can draw pretty well, and said, you know what, that's not me. And yet, and some people don't come to that realization until they're like 50. But regardless, let's go to Max Mattinson of Kicker. He's got a short story. And let me get to my notes regarding Mr. Mattinson. So this one was interesting. So this one was interesting because this was something that immediately when I read the idea I was really excited about. The execution wasn't there, but I was really excited about it. So the general idea of this is Kicker, and I kind of like the name too. It's basic, but I like the name enough. The basic idea here is that it has exosuits, which automatically turns me on because I'm thinking Gundam. And the general idea here is that the pitch, which is not great, is sci-fi action meets Maji-style adventure, which is weird because nothing I saw in here fits either of the sci-fi thing maybe, but not that. And that's really not a great pitch either. If it's sci-fi action, just give it a title that actually matters, like Star Wars or Gundam or 2001: A Space Odyssey, whatever. Let's see here. The basic. Once again, we get Max sent us a very long backstory, and we were very specific about this. Make it a paragraph. Like if you've got to go over a paragraph of your backstory, or 2 paragraphs at most, then you're really way too engaged in setting up your world and actually telling the story. And again, this comes through when we look at the short story. But the basic idea here, he spends a lot of time explaining the Earth has been colonized. The Earth's been colonized and terraformed. Basically, they're out in the space. And so let's see. The story follows 2 friends who shared a dream that individually they try to get there before the others because there's this new technology that's in these relics that are on these planets that they discovered. So they're trying to get to these other planets, and the end goal of the 2 is to travel to these 2 planets and find the last remaining ancient relics that are left there. None of that stuff meant anything to me. No, that was all backstory that really meant nothing to me. And this is, again, we talk about this in the Writer's Logic, which you can find on the Pilot Manga page, but the backstory, really should only serve to set up the basic idea. When you start getting into naming little things, like we had one guy who was a big fan of Final Fantasy, and so he would get into these long, complicated explanations of his plot, which he never could tell me the plot. He could tell me the backstory about the way mana works and the way that the characters have hit points and all this stuff. And it's like you waste 15 minutes just going into all this backstory. And at the end of the day, tells you nothing about the plot. The plots at the end of the day, guys, are really simple. It's like this character is trying to do this, and this character is trying to stop them. It really, at the end of the day, writing 101 is that simple. And so when you spend that much time setting up the world and you're trying to get into the setup of these relics and so forth, unless you're telling me specifically what that relic is going to do, then like they got to get this relic, because the relic is the one thing that can save the universe before a meltdown, like Star Blazers or something, or Space Battleship Yamato. Then that's just one of those things that it's a lot of time spent trying to explain something that's not particularly engrossing or imaginative or interesting. The main thing I got from this is that there are these two main characters, Dia and Brianna, and they're featured in the short story, and they're best friends. Clearly, though, they're actually kind of at odds with each other. They're very competitive, and so these exosuits, they're basically partial mech suits, so they're kind of like Iron Man armor, which again I was really excited for. So basically, he kind of sets up the exosuits and so forth. But basically, regarding these two young ladies, they're very, they rely on each other a lot. They're typical best friends, and basically, they are learning how to act independently of one another, having to learn to grow close to people outside of the bubble that they've lived in up until this point, which is never really explained why they live in a bubble, by the way, except for this being the world that they live in. But again, it's not really explained why that's the case, which could have been explained in the sentence, by the way. It doesn't require a lot of backstory. So the two start the story. They're on Earth, and they're going to begin traveling through the cities there and meeting other people that they learn from and form partnerships with to make teams ready to venture into space. Again, like I said, I was excited when I kind of caught the idea of the exoskeleton, but everything else about this just seemed to be very kind of loose. So basically, is the story, all the backstory set up about these ancient relics in space don't actually mean anything, because ultimately these kids are walking around Earth trying to put together a team to then go into space, and that really is a plot that informs maybe Chapter 1 or the first arc. That's not really a plot. The plot is these guys going into space. So this is what I mean. This is 3 paragraphs here that you're having to go through all of this, and you're still not quite sure exactly what the story is ultimately about. He does give an example of his first chapter, but again, there's a lot of stuff here that just didn't make a lot of sense. Bottom line here is that, in terms of my notes, the artwork here is interesting. It's not great, but it could be better for sure. But I did find it kind of interesting and engaging. I like the hairstyle. I like the basic character design that was delivered to some of the characters. Bottom line here is that one of the characters, Bria, or I forget which one, but challenges the other to an exosuit fight. And while I got kind of excited about it, the exosuit fight is literally completed in like 1 page. There was nothing intriguing about it, and more importantly, the character who doesn't have an exosuit beats the character who does have an exosuit, which doesn't really explain to me the joy of the exosuit. So, again, I didn't quite catch any of that. It's like basically setting up a series that's like Gundam, and the human character beats the Gundam without even without even needing to or having to do anything special. So, I like the interaction between Brianna and Dia, and again, like I said, I think the artwork has some real possibilities. Again, there's a lot of room to grow. We see some of the typical things you see when you see creators who are learning their craft, learning how to draw and stuff. But at least Max here did try some different perspectives. He understood to move to an outside exterior shot just to give some diversity to the panel. So there's a lot here that I like. But as I said, though, the execution and a lot of the stuff, from the plot to the description of the plot to understanding the plot to then just the actual fight sequence and the way the fight even happens, just didn't grab me at all. And so you can see here the exosuit, the character in the exosuit then rushes after the other character. She swings a sword that she got from somewhere, and which we never see. I guess it's a light sword maybe, and then the character just crashes out of the exosuit. It's that simple. That was the story. So, I'm not gonna say it wasn't a great short story. It wasn't. But this is far better than some of the short stories we just showed you. But still, there's nothing engrossing here that really gets you excited about the idea. Not even really the exosuit, which doesn't even really have enough of a visual sexiness to it to draw you in. So I like what this could be. Again, space series that are like Gundam that utilize this idea of having to go into space to save humanity. This is a tried and tested concept that has lots of room for great stories. Again, Space Battleship Yamato or Star Blazers if you grew up in the West. Gundam, the many Gundams deal with this concept theme between Earth and the other planets that are essentially like countries. So there's lots of room here for this idea. And then the idea of exosuits, kind of like Iron Man armor versus giant mechs, is again very exciting. I can't wait to see this. But what Max gives us just doesn't reach the level that it could. But again, there are a lot of things here that I did like. Like I said, Max has Max has a good understanding of environment. I thought a lot of the stuff that he tried to do showed ambition, and that's something that you can't take for granted. The character designs were interesting. I mean, I liked some of the character designs. They weren't great, but I mean, I think I wrote a note here about this character Brown has a tattoo right above her butt, which is great. That's real life, and that's something you actually rarely see in comic books, in manga especially. So again, I like the idea of this, not the execution. So my comment to Max here would be to go back and really put some time and effort, perfect your art, but your art's getting there. So you're not at the level some of the other guys are. You've got some capabilities of art. Just keep working on it. Keep drawing. Keep trying new ideas. But for the story, like I said, I just didn't get enough here. Some of the dialogue was good. So again, Max could be a great writer, but what I saw in the pitch and the story, the backstory, the plot seemed to be very mixed and muddled. It didn't seem to really have a focus to it. And that typically is a telltale sign of someone who's either really new at writing, which is, again, we're an amateur company, so it's not a big issue, but it has to be coherent. And there's not a lot of stuff that's very coherent. It doesn't seem to be very confident in the story it's telling. And so that's why I couldn't really go forward with this. But I'm interested in this creator, Max, just like I was with Nganga. So I'm very curious to see what Max comes up with. So that is Kicker. Again, I kind of like the name there for that. So let's now go to Andre Roberts. Andre has written us many times before. He's been on our Facebook group rather frequently. So Andre had what I thought was one of the best concepts. There are some other concepts that are really, really great. And again, I liked Nganga's concept a great deal. But this one, certainly in terms of the name, is great. So first of all, you can see here with the ad, this is not a great ad. This is not a great banner ad at all. I'm not sure what the color use is going on here in the background. But Toys versus Humans. Can you get a better name than that? I mean, it's not a great series title, but it's one of those classic series titles that says it all in the name. There are two ways to do names in your comics, folks. One is you can either be really clever and have something just kind of weird and it sounds right when you put it together, but it's kind of weird. It's kind of like the Japanese naming system. Like when you hear it's like Japanese names like Aldanoa Zero, you're like, this sounds kind of cool, but it's like two weird things put together. Or Black Blood Brothers, it's like it's just weird stuff that's kind of put together, which we see with us. I mean, White did Apple Black, which sounds awesome, even though you don't. It's kind of a weird title. I came up with a series called Clock Striker, which sounds awesome, but it's just weird to kind of hear those words together. So you can either go kind of the weird route with a name, or you can go the really simple route with the name. Toys versus Humans. You don't need to know anything other than Toys versus Humans. Everybody gets it. Everybody loves it. Banner ad, though, not great. This background here is horrible. And in the tagline here, and I give Andre credit for attempting a tagline, because the reason we want to see you do a banner ad is we want to see that you understand how to, what your series means to people, or what it could mean to people. Again, far too many creators get caught up in their story. They think it's like the second coming of Christ, or it's the Bible, or something like that, and it's none of those things at all. Like as we've just seen, in most cases, we just hope it can actually make sense. So the banner ad's meant to really kind of channel that arrogance that many creators have and focus it into saying, okay, how would you explain your idea or get people excited about your idea? So again, many people struggle with the banner ad, which I find interesting because, as I've just talked about regarding young people, webcomic creators are in the exact same boat as young people. Meaning that you have to really give it everything if you want to succeed in webcomics. The idea that it's like comic books were back in the day where it's like, hey, I just draw. I don't worry about marketing and so forth. You can kiss that shit goodbye, ladies and gentlemen, because that is not reality for webcomic creators. you've got to know how to do a little bit of marketing. You've got to be available to your audience. You've got to know how to do a little bit of social media. You've got to be able to draw. You've got to be able to write if you're a writer-artist combo. But you've got to learn how to do those things. You don't have the luxury of saying, I just draw or I just write. That's not reality. And so the banner ads really tell us a little bit about the creators. So I give Andre credit here for attempting to do something here. The tagline wasn't a great tagline, but still, you know, it's like I think I wrote here. I said a better one would be, you know, when your best friends turn against you, what will you do? You know, something like that. You know, because the kid's best friend is his toy. So, you know, something like that really sets up the idea here. Something like this suggests that this is a story that takes place in the past, which that's not what I read, at least. So, you know, so that's that. So again, you know, this was interesting. You can see here the main character, Pookie the bear, which tells me that Andre Roberts is African American. If I did not know Andre Roberts was African American, I knew it the minute I read that he had a character named Pookie the bear, and that's just a black thing, folks. If you're not black, you won't get it. But anyways, I love the design. This whole thing made me chuckle because I thought it was just a great concept. This was actually a real pleasure to check out. Toys versus humans. So we see Andre's cover page here, or kind of like overall cover page here. So we see some of the toys here. We got a creepy clown. We got a marionette. And then we see kind of the human characters here, who in some cases look as creepy as the toys. But still, this was a really I really found this to be kind of adorable. Let me first. I'll leave it here for a second. I'll scroll through that. I want to pull it up on my iPad here so I can read it without disrupting you guys. Okay, so basic pitch is Attack on Titan meets Toy Story. So that's one hell of a pitch, folks. Attack on Titan meets Toy Story. Set in a fictional America, toys suddenly come to life, and they aim to overthrow the human race. Lumia is a young female. She has to stop the toys with a few allies. So that's the basic plot. So, you know, I thought that the plot for this for the short story, I mean, it was very much to the point. It didn't, you know, it didn't really set up a great deal of things. It was just basically a quick kind of like, you know, hey, here's the basic overall plot, and then, you know, the characters kind of come at each other. That was pretty much it. I mean, really, I didn't enjoy the short story, basically, bottom line. It really just kind of did some weird things. I wasn't sure if the characters died. I mean, there was some weird stuff that happened here towards the end of it. So I didn't really get a lot of what was happening here. But, you know, we meet Lumia. She goes against these toys, and that's it. I mean, there wasn't really, like, again, like I said, I gave that Naruto example. It wasn't really like a hardcore, like, hey, here's a character, here's the world, but now here's a story. It's just a story, you know. So, like, you know, had Lumia maybe had to, you know, like, you know, they had gone to a house. Again, I don't know much about this world because he doesn't really explain it very well. But you know, had Lumia maybe gone into a house that had been abandoned, and she found a young child there. The child is, like, you know, crying, and you know, we know that the world has been attacked. You know, the toys have revolted. We know this, and so Lumia finds this child crying. So she goes in and tries to tell the child, you know, hey, you know, we got to leave. It's not safe here, and so forth. And the child then, you know, really wants to play with her toy, but her toy, you know, attacked her, and then we come to find out that the girl is actually a doll, like one of those kind of creepy dolls you see, like in one of those horror movies. Then that would have been a short story. You know, it would have set up. You know, we could have gotten glimpses of the overall plot of the world, but it's got a beginning, a middle, and an end. You know, we kind of go from there. This is literally like the main, I guess, the main bad guy character. You know, they kind of meet up, and it's like they already are at war with each other, and Lumia's kind of having some doubts about fighting, but then ultimately they fight. Pookie makes a declaration about why they're fighting, and then, like I said, I couldn't really tell what happened towards the end. And so what this particular story, my challenge with this particular story was the art, which is not bad, and that's the weird thing about it. Is the art here is not bad, I mean, a lot of the things that Andre tries to do, he actually can do. This, in some ways, it reminds me of David Yoon, who's one of our creators. He does Spoon, which is a fantastic series. David's art is eclectic, is the right word to use, because it's not, you know, it's not white manga, it's not Andrea, it's not Leo or Ray or any of our creators, Mark Reed, any of our really talented creators. It's not that level of sexiness, but it does the job. I mean, David is capable of doing so many things correctly that the average creators can't do. And so, in this case, Andre is also capable of doing that. I mean, there are a lot of moments here where maybe some anatomy issues or some perspective shots that don't work, but Andre, for the most part, he's able to actually do what he's trying to do. It doesn't always look great in some cases, but you know, again, he's you know, if the character's jumping and going after another character, if the character's hurt or confused or sad, he can pull it off. I think. But again, you know, like this panel here is a good example. Like, you know, Lumia here looks kind of stunted. I can't tell if she's a child or if she's older because she's dressed a certain way. But then, like, she looks very stunted there. And then, you know, like I said, then we've kind of got this perspective shot here of this robot. I can't tell if this robot is holding this kid. Like, it's just, there's some stuff here that, again, art-wise is not great. So you get lost trying to decipher exactly what's happening. But later on, though, in this last page here, like, this is a really compelling set of panels with really good diversity of camera angles. The problem is that I couldn't tell you for the life of me what happened. I literally don't know. Did Lumia die? I think she died, but then she's supposed to be a main character, so a lot of it just kind of doesn't make a lot of sense here. I'm just kind of lost with this, and I'm sure Andre is going to write me and say, look, this is what I meant to do, or this was my short story, is that she does lose, and that's the whole point. So I kind of on the fence with this, because again, some of the art doesn't really convey itself very well. Some of the plot doesn't convey itself very well, but the concept is fantastic. Also, I think that Andre's art is not great for some of these toys, because like the bear just lacks things that kind of make the bear a compelling character, either as a bad guy, a good guy, or whatever. But in terms of the concept, this is brilliant. So like I said, I'm kind of on the fence with this one, but I really did smile reading this. I just thought, well, this is what PILOT Manga is all about. This is a really left field idea, and it's a neat idea, and you can see how it can be a really cool concept. So yes, like I said, kind of on the fence with that one. Let's see. Let's now go to Latane Ludford. Sorry. His concept is called Shadow Moss, and Shadow Moss. Here's the cover for it there. Again, give me a moment here. I'll go ahead and pull up the plot so I don't have to disrupt you guys from what you're looking at. Latane has sent stuff to us before. So this is Inuyasha meets Tokyo Ghoul. So here, a half-mutant boy named Raven, with the desire to erase every single mutant with shards known as the Shadow Moss. But after encountering a girl who reminds him of his little sister, he finds himself struggling to protect her, since the Shadow Moss feeds off her race to survive. So, so that is the overall concept. So I'll say up front that there was something here I really liked a lot, and that was the character design. Otherwise than that, I really didn't take to this very well. So let me go to that part that I liked so much, which was the character design. I really liked, really loved this character here. You know, there's something about, I mean, I love that look. I just love this kind of mad scientist look, you know, from a kid's perspective. This could very well, like, if the plot were more to do with maybe like a trading card game, like Yu-Gi-Oh or something like that, this would be a great character design for that. 'Cause it's just kind of got that nerdy, geeky kind of feel to it, which is exactly why I didn't like the story, because I didn't feel like this character fit the story at all. The story is like trying to be something serious, and the art doesn't really reflect that, and the character design doesn't reflect that. And so, you know, it kind of threw me off a bit. My total notes here, first of all, I said artwork is, you know, art is promising. This is a style of art I actually find kind of intriguing. Like, there's things here I like a lot. But again, it's very sketchy, and as a result of being very sketchy, it's very confusing to kind of tell what's going on sometimes. Not to mention, there are things here that just are. I don't know how old Latane is. He sent stuff to us before, but like this is like this first panel here just really is just a good example of when you see a creator who's not really used to doing this, because he's got this dialogue here where the character says, "We seem to be getting closer to one," and he's talking to a character he's walking with, which is Cassie, and yet we're looking at this and like the bubble for him talking is directly over Cassie. So like there's no reason to even draw Cassie in that picture. Speech bubble goes right over Cassie's head. Then we get Cassie in the next shot, and we see that Raven's kind of messing with Cassie and so forth. But like I said, we kind of we get to this thing here. They just kind of come across this other character, and then they have this battle with this guy Ace Norway, who just comes out of nowhere, and I couldn't begin to tell you exactly what happens from there. Like I mean, you can just see the artwork here. Like they're fighting, but I literally cannot begin to tell you how the fight is going, how it's choreographed, any of the stuff. At one moment here, there's this thing that says Sonic written on it, and I wrote in my notes, I'm like, does the character have a sonic boom, a sonic punch? Like you can't tell what's happening here. So yeah, it was just very bizarre. I couldn't quite tell exactly what was going on with it, and then at the very end here as well, like it doesn't end exactly because Raven is basically saying that no one touches the girl. The plot even was kind of weird in the chapter 1 plot because he's talking about how basically it's all about protecting the sister, and yet at the same time he said he wrote here something about he wants to protect her because she's someone who looks like his sister, but he never tells me who the sister is, why she mattered, did she die, was she corrupted, was she converted by a shard? Like that's the sort of if you're gonna have backstory, that's the sort of backstory I need because it tells me what I'm reading, versus backstory that's needlessly complex, setting up all these terms that I'll never care about for something that maybe doesn't even happen until 5 years down the road if you're telling the story. Like this is something like I needed to know because I don't understand why this is happening. So again, it's just a weird setup here. Latane, like I said, but there are things here. Like I said, this last panel with Raven, looking at I guess the girl or the bad guy. I can't tell exactly what he's doing, but like that's a good-looking panel. That's a good-looking shot of the character. We can see he's intense. His eyes look great. His arm is stuck out the right way. I love the character design of Ace Norway, but again, there's so much of this it just makes no sense whatsoever. Like I said, I don't know how Latane is, but this reads as if Latane is maybe younger. Is a younger creator. The other part of this that again is the banner ad. This doesn't follow the banner ad rules in terms of its design. Neither did Andres, by the way. But the thing here, no, I'm sorry, Andres did, but neither did one of the other guys. But the thing here that doesn't make sense is that it being different is badass. Again, at no point is it ever explained who is different. The only thing we know about is that these shards kind of, have this. They've got to try to find these shards, but at no point does it explain being different as being something significant. So this just doesn't make any sense. And the series isn't like this. This isn't the X-Men. This is basically, again, his pitch again was Inuyasha was Tokyo Ghoul. So it's just so. This didn't work for me. Didn't even care for the name Shadow Moss. This didn't work for me. But I think Latane's got real talent. I think Latane may be very young. So Latane, I hope you keep at it. I hope you keep trying to draw stuff. I hope you keep trying to mature in terms of your storytelling, because I'm convinced that your art will get to a level where you've got something very compelling. And at that point, I'm very intrigued. Like I said, I think you're younger. I don't know. I think you're younger. If you are younger, I don't know how old you are. Again, you might be 35 for all I know. But I would love to see you try something that is meant to be for kids, because your artwork does strike me as being far more at that level. To which case, then, if this were like a Pokemon or a Yu-Gi-Oh type thing, I could get very excited. I think your artwork has some real style on that level. But again, you still need to work on some of your art and stuff. And like I said, some of the stuff that was in here was so confusing, it just made no sense. And so I'm not, like I said, this is one of those where I can say, I'm not ready to say you're not a writer, and I'm not ready to say you're not an artist. But in both these cases, though, like you leave me with more questions than you give me answers. So that's one of those things there. But it was interesting art. I mean, like I said, I found the artwork intriguing on some level. I love that character design for Ace Norway. All right, we're almost we've collected quite a few here, so we're gonna be. I don't think No to Heaven will be coming out tonight at 10 o'clock, folks. Let's see. Next up is Monster Blue. Actually, let's skip that one because this is one of these ones that I had to get a little bit later. So let's go to Adam Thomas. Adam Thomas has Enter the Void. So we're going to go to Adam Thomas here. Adam Thomas's comic is called Enter the Void, and let me read Hypnosis, and then I'll read my notes. So, yeah, Adam, this is one of those ones where Adam Thomas actually wrote this very long thing. He didn't actually follow the rules. There's no pitch in here. It was just a very long thing here. So let me go to my notes because I don't want to read all of that. Let's see here. Okay. Okay, so I wrote here for the plot. There was no pitch. It was a lot of backstory. So yeah, this one was. I'll try to read a little bit of it here. Basically, what he writes here is the world is being swallowed by darkness. All hope is left in the hands of Shinji and his rival 12. They're searching for the most powerful weapon known to man. To some, it is but an urban legend, a power created by none other than the deities known as Okami and Nico. Shinji is trying to maintain his spot in the Reclaimers, a group of generally good guys that travel through the world searching for this power. They help cities that need to be rebuilt. They remain neutral to assist in wars. Meanwhile, 12 is fighting to keep her spot on the Saviors, the opposite force, I assume, who search for this mythical power while fighting to keep themselves alive. Further on in their journey, they begin to question all that they've known up until this point in their life. Neither have met the other, but something has drawn them closer together. So that is and that's just the first two paragraphs. There's two more paragraphs to go. But again, folks, this is why we talk about the rules. It's, you know, like I said, we've got a ton of these to get through, and it's not fair on everyone for me to have to read basically a whole page of your content because you didn't just shrink it down to the bare minimum. And again, I'm sure Adam wasn't trying to do this, you know, for any particular reason other than he just maybe missed the rules or didn't catch the rules exactly. Bottom line, this was a very confusing story. There was, like I said, there's so many characters, so many concepts. You know, just this is one of those stories that just has far too much backstory for its own good because it doesn't make a great deal of sense. Which was a shame because I thought the art here wasn't great, but there's a power to this art. There's a real power to this art. And by power, I mean that it kind of reminds me of the old school manga style that we see from stories like Fist of the North Star, artists like Burleson. This is like like the characters here feel powerful. This feels like some really powerful art. You can see here in this title, which I assume is meant to be a banner ad. Again, it's not following the rules, but you know, but then the first thing that kind of threw me off was, like I said, you got the kind of Naruto swirl on the back for part of the void. You got the Fox Beast and stuff. So again, I couldn't tell you too much of the story and plot because, like I said, there's really not much that was there. The other thing that really kind of doomed this is that despite how powerful the art looks at times, there's a lot of stuff here that just really wasn't delivered much. Not to mention there's two characters here fighting. I can't tell if this is a guy and a girl or two guys, which would be interesting if it was two guys. I mean, I'd love for us to publish a LGBT comic. I don't know if this is meant to be one. It doesn't really describe that very well. But anyways, we did. I think this is a girl because I think I see a bit of her chest here. But again, I'm not sure. Like I said, the artwork, as strong as it can be at times, is very lackluster in other parts. And here it's just very empty. Likewise, there is no dialogue whatsoever, folks. Zero dialogue. So, and then Akami Nico is not. This is one of the things that I loved. Akami Nico is not the name of the story. The story is called Enter the Void, from what I can tell. Yet he put together a banner, which is set to our dimensions, but has actually got the name of Akami Nico, which is the name of the two deities. So, you know, this wasn't. This just missed the mark on so many levels. But again, I think that that Adam has some talent for art, potentially. There's some stuff that he did in some of the sequences there, and some of the panels that was really good. But it just, again, you know, it's not all there. So again, this doesn't go forward at all for us to even consider the way I'm kind of on the fence with toys and robots, toys versus robots. This doesn't meet that level at all. This doesn't even reach the level of Nganga Zuma, who also didn't really have a lot of dialogue for his story. But like I said, I do want to say to Adam that I think he's got some real potential talent as an artist, and so there's something there. So that's really all I can say at this point. But you know, certainly was intrigued by it. Would love to see more. So hopefully, Adam, you'll enter another test flight and really work on your art, work on your storytelling ability, and try to put something together that is well coherent. Because I think there's something worth seeing there. Next up is a comic from J.J. Mathis, and this is called Morning Memory. Is the name of this, at least from what I saw on my notes. That's what I've got on my notes here. Morning Memory. So Jonathan, his name is Jonathan Mathis. Sorry, I thought his name was J.J. Mathis, but Jonathan Mathis. So his pitch didn't work, but I mean, it was intriguing, but it just didn't work because, again, it's not set up the way we have a pitch. And again, I tell everybody, please read the writer's logics that we do. Please read the writer's logic, because those really go into detail. I mean, I spent a lot of time writing them, and I'm actually needing to write more of them, but please read the writer's logic, because they will tell you so much if you actually read them and comprehend them than just trying to do these things. Because like this pitch here is modern day meets biblical, which makes no sense. First of all, biblical can really mean modern times, because biblical is really more so about the archetypes of Christianity versus biblical age, which is a different noun, a different concept. So modern day meets biblical doesn't really tell me much. Essentially, his comic here is what's it at here? Again, he didn't really follow the rules and give me a concise thing here. So let me go to my notes, because this is too much to read here for you guys. But let's get to his. Okay, here we go. So yeah, like I said, my notes here, I said, you know, the pitch wasn't very relevant because there's no actual comparison to anything that you can actually look at and say, oh, okay, I get what this is meant to be. The plot was very long, was over a page, and had a ton of backstory. And he threw in a lot of confusing names like Schizolich and Helamunians and things like that. So this was way too much backstory here. Unfortunately, Jonathan. And I wrote here as a note: the bottom line to the plot is that humans battle devils. End of story. That's how, folks. That's how simple it can be. When you're writing that much material, and you're like, hey, this is really going to excite this person. You've got to write that much stuff, and I can distill it down into humans fight devils. And then that's a problem with writing. But I think as well. I think. From what I could tell, looking at it, a lot of this, I think this artist is probably influenced a lot by Berserk, because there's just a lot of stuff here to just kind of made me feel Berserk, including one of the character designs here. But anyway, I mean, the story was it was very confusing. Basically, these two characters basically spending a lot of time talking about kind of how and what they intend to do, and then we get this character who is half demon, so he's one of these kind of half demon guys, and so he's trying to save his girlfriend, which again is very Berserk. If you guys have never read the manga Berserk, I mean, it's a very dense plot, so I won't explain it, but there's a thread of it about the main character Guts trying to save Casca, who has been really traumatized by the devils. And like I said, I couldn't help but get that feeling from this character up here, that's essentially kind of like a trapped demon character. I'm not quite sure what's going on here, but this character looks just like the Belamut, which is the design for the thing that creates the demons or creates a portal for demons to come into our world or their world in Berserk. So this struck me as being a lot like Berserk. But basically, these two characters fight, and like he's trying to save her, and we get a little bit of the inner turmoil he's going through trying to save her. But beyond that, though, like it's just a fight sequence of him trying to save this girl, and then she leaves, and he literally is just left thinking to himself, "That's it." I mean, that's it. But there's no there's no pathos. There's no like real the better setup here would have been he could have lost all that stuff in the first page with the demons kind of talking. So if he could literally just had this guy, just seeing the remains of modern day Earth and the subway and so forth, and then talking about how humanity's been decimated by devils and so forth, and how how he basically is trying to survive. And then he sees his girl. He talks about how he's been trying to, looking for his girlfriend, yada yada, but she's now possessed. And now they fight. And then at the very end, he's got a choice to kill her. He doesn't. And then he basically is left to kind of, ponder that he has nothing left in the world because she's, something like that. But instead, we just get this kind of fight sequence, which is not terrible. There's some stuff here that works. But ultimately, like I said, this felt too much like Berserk. Like if I had to guess, I would be confident this creator really likes Berserk. I thought he was going to do a Berserk-like comic, and he still very well could. But there's too much spent trying to set up all this complicated backstory when at the end of the day, just telling a basic story is the first rule of webcomics. Like I tell a lot of our guys in PILOT Manga, I would love if someone could just do a boring 5-page Batman story, because if you can do that and pull it off, then you can actually tell a story. But when you're too busy trying to tell this world you're trying to build, and you don't know how to tell the world through subtle things, instead you've got to try to get into all these specific pieces of it, including this very long 1-page document that is literally nothing but backstory, then that is a problem with your ability to write. And so, again, I think Jonathan here has real talent. I think Jonathan can pull something off, I'm sure, in the future. But this is not quite it for what I'm seeing here. This was more confusing and on that level a tad frustrating than what I think could be for what Jonathan could probably do. So that's that. This, unfortunately, we couldn't go forward with this. There just wasn't enough here for me to actually go forward on. So let's see here. So let's move to the next one. Although, again, Jonathan, I hope you enter a future test flight because I think you've got talent. But again, there's not enough here on display for me to know if you've got talent as a writer or talent as an artist or both, because too much of the art was compromised and too stiff, and there's too much going on with what you're trying to do. Although, again, I give you credit for trying different things. That tells me you've got real potential. On the writing side, though, like I said, you had dialogue in there for sure, so you're ahead of the curve over Gonga and some of the other guys, but that story is far too complicated for what I think you're able to do, and that just came across there. But again, we'll see. Hopefully you enter another one, you have time to maybe try another idea and put some real thought into it. Next up is Tyrone Willis. Actually, we're going to hold off on Tyrone Willis's. No, we can do Tyrone Willis's, sorry. We're going to do Tyrone Willis's. His comic was called Shift, World of Kings, and let's see here. Here we go. Okay, so, oops. All right, so Tyrone Willis's comic Shift. Let me go back to my notes. So this was an interesting concept here. Again, a lot of influences that come through, unfortunately, far too much. But this was interesting, and I found a lot of potential here within Mr. Willis's stuff. Bottom line, let's see here. Okay, actually, I have to use my notes entirely because Tyrone did not provide. Wait, did he provide backstory? My notes say he did, but I'm not seeing it. Yeah, I don't see Tyrone's backstory. Anyway, we'll just flip through here. I'll just read my notes here. I said, first of all, the artwork has some real potential. the first page is simply dynamite. This first page is dynamite. Again, it's not perfect. You know, the background looks slightly odd. The character here, who's got her hand up, is trying to you know, have the character go away. She, you know, her design is not quite great, but the perspective and the idea behind the perspective is fantastic. So so this was really good. The problem, of course, is then becomes apparent on every other level. So let's back up. Main character Leo here. I like this design. That was an interesting idea for a cape. Like, I really like this design. It's just a weird design, which is kind of funky. I thought it was kind of neat. I don't know if this is the manga for this design, but I did like this design a great deal because it was such a weird kind of setup. Like you know, he's got these lines that go across his body and they separate colors. So you got this blue color at the top, this white line crosses it, then it's black, then it goes into green. There's a line across it, and it goes back to black, and it was just kind of funky. So I thought the art here had a lot of potential. Like, this was an interesting idea. This creator, with his thing here, conquer the world and save everyone. You know, from what I could gather from the plot is that there are different kings, and so I thought that was kind of interesting. The title, I hate the title. This is literally one of those titles that, again, like I said, makes no sense. And so Shift World of Kings, like, it just makes no sense. It's like this is not Game of Thrones or anything like that. So it's like, you know, if it's gonna be called World of Kings, then call it World of Kings. You know, like I said with Toys versus Robots, either keep it simple or be clever. But this is just like, this is trying to do both, and it just comes off as very corny. So anyways, we get here into it. So I think what he was trying to do here, because like I said, I read the story, and I think what he was trying to do here is basically make his. He never gave us a pitch, but he kind of put his story here in the 5-page story, which was interesting. Basically says, with the world in havoc and kings running rampant, the weak are getting killed every day by the ones who are engulfed by their greed to control everything. Now one man is going to change the way that things are perceived. Now, here's the first thing I'll say. I don't know Tyrone Willis. I don't know where he's from. One of the things I wrote down was that this feels like a typical kind of manga from Japan. And this is one of the complaints that I have about manga in Japan. We had this one guy on our site that went to this long deal because he hated the idea that we called ourselves manga, which is ignorant because he clearly doesn't know that manga literally is Japanese for comic books. So there's this level of stupidity that comes out amongst people who are fans of comics that is mind-blowing at times. But so I never got back to him, but I do want to I think I did get back to him. But I know Yende Hall had a long conversation with him. You can find it on Discus, but it was really bizarre. It was like this complaint from people who thought that, like, how dare we call ourselves manga. But this is a good example of why we call ourselves manga, because manga is just comic books. And therefore then lies the challenge for people who are not Japanese. Tyrone is not Japanese from what most I can tell. So the Japanese talk very bizarre. If you're from the West, the Japanese talk in a very bizarre way. This is one of the challenges I have with people, with kids who grow up enamored with manga, because if you've never read an American comic book and you are American or from the West and you're trying to create manga, that's problem number one. Because manga, the characters talk in a very specific way, and it's very bizarre if you're not from Japan. Like, if you know, when anime titles or when Hollywood movies, blockbusters, come out in Japan, it's not James Bond Spectre. It's James Bond fights the cold snowstorm bandit with the left foot. Like, that's literally will be the name of like a James Bond movie. It's just called Octopussy in the rest of the world. So the Japanese have a very bizarre way in English. It doesn't mean it's bad. It just means it's bizarre. It's not the way that we talk. And when I read this, I wrote down, I wrote like this feels like this guy's trying to do manga, because like this thing I just read is so bizarre, with the world in havoc. Like, what is this? Isn't Shakespeare. So what is this? Like, with the world in havoc, just say the world has been destroyed and now superpowered beings have declared themselves kings and they run rampant, trampling over the rest of humanity. Like, that says it all. But instead we get this thing that's trying to be like Shakespeare, which is like the Japanese. Well, the Japanese, like, I love how, like, on Attack on Titan, the characters will talk to each other, and they'll talk in this very long, drawn-out way instead of just saying run or duck or fight. You know, it's like this weird thing. So this is like I said, this really caught me with Tyrone's stuff here, because a lot of the dialogue just kind of got very kind of grandiose, and more importantly, like I said, the plot never really explained itself I assume that's what it was, that these are superpowered people who've declared themselves kings. I couldn't tell you what else it is. But the main character, Leo, basically fights back. He fights this other character, and that's essentially it. And then they have this kind of chat here at the very end. So here are the things I like. Tyrone has, like I said, some real potential for stuff. You can see where his artwork has problems, but on the other hand, it's got real potential. He clearly is influenced by Tite Kubo. White Manga is influenced by Tite Kubo, but White has become his own artist. I believe Tyrone will as well, because this character design for this character Brick is literally Jagger Grimjow. I mean, literally Jagger Grimjow. It's like that just, you know, couldn't really give that. I mean, including the fact that the hair goes up. I mean, it was Jagger Grimjow. So, like, that for me just ended it right there. Like, it's like I wanted to love this. The fact that there was no real plot given in there, and that, like I said, the name's kind of weird. I think, like I said, this is an example of someone trying to create something in their mind that's epic, and it's not. And so it's like, just get to the story, just tell the story, and leave all the kind of epic stuff away. You know, I mean, including like a proverb at the very bottom of the page, and it's like, so yeah, like I said, I think Tyrone Lewis has real potential. That being said, you know, enough of this kind of works to where, you know, I'm on the fence with it, but I very much am leaning towards no, just because, again, that Jagger Grimjow thing is so egregious, and some of the dialogue is just so heavy, needlessly heavy, that I just, you know, I'm not sure. So that's Ty Willis. Again, a lot of potential. The Ty as an artist has huge potential, and I would there's a piece of me again that believes that we'll be seeing from Tyrone again, because he's got real character capabilities. He's got some fantastic character design. He's got some, at least what he showed with Leo, and even Brick a little bit. So he's got some real potential with stuff here, but again, a lot of stuff that was there just didn't work. The plot, I mean, was too grandiose. Just, there could have been a story told there about kings or people who call themselves kings, who are powerful figures who run the world. That could have been done without having essentially a superhero battle that really tells us nothing about the plot except for that little blurb on the cover page. There could have been something there as a story concept. But anyways, let's see. Now we're going to go to Tony Dawkins, Blaze Reborn. So let's get there. Tony Dawkins, Blaze Reborn. Actually, this was something that you guys saw. If you saw the ad that we ran on our Halloween page, you already saw that. So you saw Blaze Reborn there. So this is Superman meets Kung Fu Panda is his pitch. So this is a great pitch because it's to the point, makes perfect sense. Therein is a problem with it, and we'll get to that in a second. But basically, plot is, imagine every time you snapped, you blacked out, and when you finally calmed down, everything is on fire. A situation with Dante Thermos, a 17-year-old boy who thought he was just a black kid with abnormal problems, which means he's just a black kid if he's got problems. But moving from country to country. Imagine his surprise when he finds he's actually an alien from a dead planet. So, ding, ding, ding. Anybody get what this is? Because this is Dragon Ball and this is Superman, definitely. With his location revealed, Dante must flee to a planet that's light years away as Luna Rosa to hide from the evil that crave his power. Between learning how to use his alien-given abilities and fleeing from bounty hunters wanting his head, Dante is sure to embark on a lot of adventures and run into a lot of trouble. This is Dragon Ball. This is not even Superman. This is Dragon Ball. I mean, plain and simple. Like I remember when I was checking this out and thought to myself, man, this is Dragon Ball, before I even got to the rest of the stuff. It's clearly Dragon Ball. You can see here on the cover image, you can see a character that looks kind of like the TN character with that's got the forehead eye. It's not Dragon Ball, but it definitely is influenced by Dragon Ball. And I think the idea that he wouldn't compare it to Dragon Ball as opposed to Superman is interesting. That being said, there's a lot here that I liked. So again, you know, I'm very blunt with you guys, but there's a lot of stuff here I did like. The Dante turnaround. I mean, Dante is a compelling looking figure. I mean, I hate when African Americans in manga, or black people in manga, the Japanese do, have to look weird. I hate that because it's like, you know, in America where African Americans are very, you know, hugely, around the world where African Americans or people of African descent have huge profiles, either as athletes or celebrities, the president of the United States. Very few of them have, you know, have to have these quirky hairstyles and stuff. This is a quirky hairstyle that I like for one reason, is because it's still an afro. You know, it's not like some finagled black, you know, wannabe, you know, Naruto thing. It's just a hairstyle, you know. It's an afro. It's an afro. So I like that. It's just got it colored. So I thought this was a really funky character design. I liked it. I like the kind of fur things around there and stuff. Bottom line, I mean, like I said, as much as this is Dragon Ball, and this is clearly Dragon Ball, there's stuff here that I did like. The artwork is decent. It's not dramatic, but it's decent. There's some stuff here. The artist has real potential. We saw a great background shot at the very beginning. Literally, the only thing happening here, the two characters are training, and it's kind of comical how they train, so I gave this a bit of a pass in terms of the 5-page short story because they're training, but there's a cleverness to the training sequence that pays off. That's just it's just cute, you know. And so there's a story being told, and we do learn a bit about some of these characters and stuff. And so I found that kind of fascinating. So this was interesting. I thought this has a lot of potential, and you know, given that you know, we published a book called Rough House a while back, it's on hiatus. I have a lot of affinity for a Dragon Ball type story that knows what it is and just tries to tell its story competently. That being said, you know, I think this is a good example in what I read to you guys about the story. This is a good example where I would have liked to have gotten some backstory, because what I got was not a lot of backstory. So, and again, backstory can be very simple. It doesn't have to be a whole page of backstory. That is ridiculous. That's ridiculous. I can't tell you guys how ridiculous that is. And I know I'm probably hurting some of you guys' feelings, but you've got to understand how ridiculous that is. Have a whole backstory. This is a webcomic. The vast majority of our competitors, Sapasic, SmackG, so on and so forth, have stories that won't even make it past the first chapter, if it even completes the first chapter, because these are webcomics. People don't even finish half the stuff they do half the time. So the idea that you've got a backstory for something that you haven't even drawn 10 pages of is ridiculous. It is literally ridiculous. And so that, you know, I mean, a whole page of backstory, look, that's ridiculous. It's like, you know, just tell a story. And in this case, Tyrone does exactly that. He tells a story. He gives us a great setup. We've got a plot. We understand the basic idea. I'd like to learn a little bit more. Like, who's he running from, and what exactly? Why do these bounty hunters want him? Like, what's so special about him? That I would like to know. But nonetheless, this is interesting. This was a really interesting concept. Wasn't great by any stretch of imaginations, but this was very decent. This actually met, you know, just about all the things we asked for. So, kudos to Tony Dawkins. Cesar Rivero has a comic called Post World. Let me get back to my notes here. Okay, I put here. Let me see here. I put here that this was promising art, but the creator actually did not follow through on a lot of things. Basically, he said this is Mad Max meets fairy tale. Is his pitch, but then he screwed it up by putting in here meets the story of David in the Bible. So as we said before, a pitch is not 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 things. It's 2 things. You start doing 3 things, it's as redundant as doing backstory, because one of those things basically doesn't really matter. It literally doesn't matter. So in this case, it's probably David in the Bible. I don't even know what relevance that has. Anyway, the story takes place after World War III. The world is a wasteland, and radiation has changed humanity forever. David is a young teenage boy who lives with his brothers and father, till one day a man places a curse on him that changes his life and has him destined to rule a nation. So that's the part about David. David undergoes many challenges as he tries to deal with a new calling on his life. The story takes place after World War III. The world is a wasteland, and radiation has changed humanity forever, which is literally the same thing he just typed in the first part of the sentence. Bottom line here was that this was interesting. Let me go back to the top here. This was interesting because you can see here with the character design of one of these characters that it is kind of Mad Max-like. You know, there is real potential in this artist. I mean, he's got the manga look down. He's trying to still figure out, he's clearly not Japanese. He's trying to figure out how to square that with his kind of American sensibilities of biology and just the way our characters look. This is, the Japanese love to draw kids or very, very, emo sort of characters. Most American superhero characters or comic characters are very big and bulky, and so I think you can see him kind of trying to struggle with that because he's got the anime look down when it comes to the face, but then when it comes to the body, he's still trying to figure out, like, one character clearly should be bulky, and he's meant to be bulky, but yet he doesn't quite know how to draw bulky, so he's kind of struggling with that a little bit. This is a Christmas short story, so this I actually found this refreshing in that the character actually tried to stick to the concept of what we want to do, which is publish this in a Christmas anthology, and so a special Christmas anthology we're going to come out with. So it was kind of interesting. One of the things here as well that then kind of gets to me is that the story then kind of flips, like it's meant to be kind of, he talks about Mad Max's fairy tale, but then it's kind of Romeo and Juliet-ish as well. There's a lot of little weird stuff that's going on here, but I did like I said, the basic idea of the art. I thought the artwork here was really promising. I love the idea of a Mad Max type of environment. That being said, though, I mean, this is literally, these guys are just buying a gift. That's essentially it. And so the story wasn't really dynamic, and the story that he's telling, at least, doesn't, this doesn't really hint at any of that. But it's interesting. This artist has a lot of potential. So while I didn't really care for this plot at all, there's no turnaround, and the ad was just a logo. So some of the pieces here that were extra that he did didn't really match. I did very much like his art. The art here is very promising. So it needs more backgrounds for sure. You can notice here, again, as we kind of scroll through the images here, background is just non-existent, even in this shot where they're walking. But again, this artist has real potential, clearly. So I'll be curious to see what else he comes up with. On the fence with this one in terms of whether or not it makes our anthology, but the short story, because it tells a story. It's just, like I said, it doesn't really hint at anything. It just kind of tells a very basic story. But it was interesting. So interesting concept. So that's that. Let's see. Next up is let's see here. Next up is Hikaru Muto. Hikaru Muto, which his story is called Summer of Romance. And so I'm going to pull it up right now. One of the things I'll say real quickly as we were looking at these, as we look at all of these, is that the art in a lot of these test flights was really great. And again, very promising stuff. So like I said, this is very encouraging. Should be for everyone who submitted a concept, because again, I think everyone here has some talent that it'll be interesting to see where it goes. If you guys are working on another test flight, which I encourage a lot of you guys to do, but very, very intriguing. So far I haven't seen anything that just was knocked down awesome, but very intriguing. Some of the stuff here was very, there's a lot of talent on display here. So Summer of Romance. This is it's a slice of life, romantic comedy. It's the main protagonists of the short are based off of one shot he created, Sarcastic. His main series is a mashup of Kakashi and X-Men, and the current title is Sino no Gakko. Main character is a 17-year-old boy named Takao. He's a recent transfer student to a Japanese high school at the beginning of the story. The school he attends is a school that features uniques, and these are people who have special. The school has a special atmosphere that affects the people and essentially causes them to have power. So this was this. Let me get back to my notes here, because I remember I had a lot of notes about this one. So first thing first is I don't know if Hikaru Muto is his actual name. I don't know if he's actually Japanese. I would imagine he is, because there are so many things in what I just read that I would be hard for me to imagine someone from the West would think of those things. Number one is that he's got an actual Japanese name. I mean, most of the people who have a fit to try to create Japanese comics, manga comics with white characters who look Japanese, or Japanese characters who look white, and so on and so forth, or have Japanese names, all these various tropes that we see in manga, usually are from black or white kids who, and of those kids, they've never been to Japan, which I find hilarious. But this, and they never put actual Japanese titles for their series, so this actually is a Japanese title, which I find intriguing. Furthermore, there's just subtle things here I saw in the art that really made me think, okay, this guy Could potentially be Japanese. I don't know. But one of the things it did, like I said, that first image I showed here, is very subtle. It's very, it's a very nice looking image. Then we get to some of the other images, and they don't quite look the same. But nonetheless, the idea of a school, X-Men basically, and the idea of there being a special atmosphere that causes powers is so bizarre that it has to be Japanese. Because the idea, the part I love is that it's a school, so instead of it being like X-Men, where literally the kids come there with powers, or Boku no Hero Academia, instead of it being kind of like that, it's a school where the atmosphere affects you and makes you a superhero, or have powers. So that's just bizarre, and it can be Japanese. So this was interesting because this is clearly a Christmas story, and so I love that aspect of it. Let's see, the art's not bad. I love some of his backgrounds. They're literally fantastic. His character work needs a lot of work, but it's still decent. He's got to work on some of his perspectives, some of his biology, but for the most part, it's there, And the basic concept here is just, it's like they're trying to buy something, the boy and the girl, and both of them kind of are trying to figure out what to buy. I thought it was cute. I thought, it made a lot of sense. It was neat. Again, you can see here with the side perspective here, these characters are not meant to be kind of overweight, but the way he draws them here from the side, they look overweight because he's got the chin and the throat kind of sticking out a bit more than it should. But I thought this would be cute. I think this is an interesting concept. Again, is it perfect? No. Is it something that we publish as a series? It'd have to change a little bit, but there was interesting ideas here, and the short story itself was cute. It reminded me again of Tony Dawkins' work, where it made a lot of sense for what it was. You see here the turnaround, very bland. There's nothing special about the main character. The other thing too is that these two characters look nothing like the main character. So again, there's some weird stuff here, or at least it didn't look nothing like this kid. So some weird stuff here that I'm not quite sure I fully understand with it. So again, I'm kind of a little on the fence with it, but I did like very much a lot of the quirks that were here. These quirks I thought were quite nice to see. So that's that. That is Summer of Romance. Next up is Travis Mason. Who has Pandora's Seal. Okay. All right. Let me do my thing. So yeah, we are definitely, because it's about to be 8 o'clock, and I've still got work to do. We've still got quite a few, about 5 more of these to do. So, Note of Heaven will not be happening at 10 o'clock tonight, folks. I'm giving you that notice right now, but it'll definitely happen. It'll definitely come out tonight, or at least late tonight maybe, and you guys will have a chance to check it out and read it. It's 41 pages, so I'm doing conversion work for it, so it can go on our website versus the magazine where it was meant to debut. So it's just a lot of stuff there. We did have a question, by the way, from Andre Roberts, who asked, are we going to do test runs or review test runs in this? And no, we're not. I mean, we don't really review test runs. We did that as a one-off that time, but we don't really review test runs. All right, I take a very important sip of Mike's Hard Lemonade. This is not an advertisement for Mike's Hard Lemonade, but if you can drink, Mike's Hard Lemonade is the way to go sometimes. All right, Pandora's Seal. Joy, Mythology's Greatest Adventure. This was actually, I thought, one of the better banner ads we got, because I thought the tagline was actually, actually was intriguing and made me interested in the series. The artwork wasn't invasive. It was there. Probably the worst thing you could say about this banner ad was just the logo for Pandora's Seal. It's not a real logo, and so in that case, then it's just wasted artwork, because it doesn't. Someone who sees this won't know what Pandora's Seal is. And the tagline is so great, Joy in Mythology's Greatest Adventure, that you see it, you're like, well, why not just get rid of the Pandora Seal altogether, give more room for the artwork of the characters, and then bam, there you actually have something that can be a really great banner ad. So we've seen some interesting banner ads all day today, but this is one that I actually liked, even though it's still got some major problems. Here's the cover for Pandora's Seal, and now let me tell you about Pandora's Seal. Pandora's Ark, Pandora's Seal, yeah. This is One Piece. So again, horrible pitch. One Piece meets Iron Knight meets Greek mythology. Again, folks, no pitch is three different things. It's two things, because more than likely the one thing that you're adding on there is just that's your grand vision of backstory. That's you trying to throw in your fanboy backstory picture to it. It really doesn't make any difference. I mean, the pitch is not meant to say exactly what your series is. It's meant to give an idea of your series. Ninjas meets Harry Potter is not Naruto, but it does give a pretty good idea of the basic concept for Naruto. So when you hear that pitch, you either are into it or you're not. You either think the idea of ninjas, young ninjas going to school the way that witches went to school for Harry Potter, intriguing, or you don't. It's that simple. Throwing in something else because you're like, okay, and then it's got some backstory, it's got elements of Game of Thrones, is not going to help you. It's not going to help you. So this right here, just like the Greek mythology piece didn't have to happen, or maybe One Piece didn't have. I mean, it's like you read this and you're just like, none of these things necessarily had to happen. This is an alternate timeline where monsters were let loose from the underworld upon the world. A young man named Xander seeks out to get rid of the monsters plaguing the world while gaining companions and traveling across this alternate Earth. So that's the basic plot. So very good plot. It keeps it very simple. I like that. So this, unfortunately, this story, this creator, I think, is not, at this point, this is not for us at the level that we'd like to have our content exist at. So this artist, like I said, does things really, really good. But in this case, you can see here, these are not panels. This is not really how you lay out a panel page. There's some stuff here that he's got to work on in terms of character design and so forth. I will give credit, though, quite a few areas here. Number one, the lettering, which looks hand-drawn in terms of speech bubbles, which typically you should use a software program. The lettering here is very clear. I can't tell you how many people we've seen who are far better artists than Mr. Mason, who will use computer-generated things and still produce horrible, non-legible lettering. This is very good lettering. You can read it. And Travis Mason actually tries to do some different stuff here. These last couple of panels here, we've got a shot here of this demon. This kind of pulled back a bit, so the demon's kind of rah, and then the demon rushes the main character, and we can see that he's rushing towards him. We see he's right up on him. Then we get another panel here. His hand is up in the sky. He's gonna bring it down. Like this is all this is stuff that you don't normally see. This is very, very smart storytelling. This is smart stories, layout and design. Now, unfortunately, again, this artist is not quite at the level yet to be able to communicate these ideas fully. So then we get this panel here where this character says Volcanus, and he rushes forward, and it's kind of really hard to see, a little hard to tell exactly what's happening. Then we get this thing where it says burst, and it looks like he's got a dead thing in his hand, but I think it's an energy burst, or meant to be an energy burst. Again, like I said, this is not a professional layout, so this would not work for us. But again, there is enough stuff here where Travis Mason, I hope, will continue drawing, because there's some real potential here. The story, of course, is your typical basic stuff where the demon comes and the hero fights the demon and wins and stuff. But still, I was really impressed, just with the art in terms of the potential the art has to become. We can see here Xander as the main character, and again, Xander looks like he's got darker skin tone according to this legend here on the side. Hard to tell because it's not color, so it's kind of hard to tell what the character design is, but it's interesting. It's not the worst thing about this story. I did love how Travis puts here Xander aged 15 to 17, and I would think Xander just has one age, but anyways, regardless, this was interesting. Like I said, there were a lot of things that Travis got incredibly right, such as keeping his story simple, keeping his plot simple. The banner ad, like I said, was simple and could have been better, but it was not bad. The cover was decent, showing us these main characters here. I mean, there's a lot of stuff here to like, and again, we can tell here that he has some potential to grow as an artist. Travis, what I would say to you is to maybe look up the Marvel. They used to do this book called the official Marvel handbook for artists, and it was basically like a guide to how to create like an actual comic page. It gave you like Bristol board paper, and you could actually, it had like blocks already assigned, so you could then go in and move the blocks around or change the blocks to create an actual page where you could draw stuff. It was really cool, and I remember as a kid getting it and drawing, and I think that was actually when I realized, I was like, you know what, I have no intention of being a comic artist. So I don't know. Dialogue in this was not bad. I thought the dialogue here had real room, but I mean, in terms of your artistic ability, right this second, Travis, this, you've still got quite a ways to go. So again, this wouldn't go forward with us, but Travis, again, I think you've got some real talent. Like I said, the dialogue here was pretty good. You kept stuff simple. And when you drew the cover, that was a decent cover. When you drew the banner ad, that was a decent banner ad. So I think you've got some real potential. I think you're savvy, and that's a very unique skill to have, is being savvy. And I think you're savvy. So from there, where you choose to go is up to you. So we'd love to see more from you. If you determine that drawing is not your thing, being a writer, I highly recommend you check out our writers contest. But anyways, again, I expect to see more from you because there's a lot of stuff here that was promising. Okay, next up. Okay, so O minus by Uck. Don't know who this is. I do not know who this is. They wrote, they put in their thing that their name was Uck, and the comic was called O minus. That is literally what they put. I couldn't tell you anything more than that. I don't know who this person is. This person could literally be Raymond Brown. But regardless, title's called O minus. This, I'm just going to say up front, this was my favorite concept that I've seen so far. When I did this a little over a week ago, because it was great. It was Beelzebub meets Maximum Ride is the pitch. And I'm going to pull it up now. Okay. Okay. Anyway, this is a great concept. Bottom line with the concept here, this character, this series, I mean, essentially, this young girl has the power to basically, she's a high schooler named Emily Priest, and she lives in a mafia-infested world. We can just say her world is controlled by the mafia, and they basically treat strength as being the only way that they really value you, and that's represented as a number, and it's on your hand. So because they value strength and because they value the number system, then the higher the number, that means that you have a higher value in life. Emily has a unique ability where she actually has on her left hand a negative number, and this actually allows her to reduce the strength of the person that she hits, and therefore she can finish off enemies with a single number of strength on her right hand if she punches them hard enough. So she's fed up with the condition for school. She decides to create a protection club that basically works to get rid of the gangs and the punks who are influenced by the mafia. And so she sets off to find members of her club to join so she can basically try to turn around her school. This was, so Beelzebub, of course, I know where she's getting Beelzebub from. This, to me, actually reminded me more of Kill la Kill. This strikes me as more like a Kill la Kill type thing. In Maximum, I'm not really quite catching the Maximum Ride piece, but regardless, I thought this was just a great concept. The art here is funky. I thought the plot here for the 5-page story was really good. It was to the point. It set up the whole dynamic of the series and the characters. It was a little confusing. Kind of reminded me of Latane Lumford a little bit, where some of the characters are kind of pixie-like, and so when they get involved in conflict, it kind of scrunches up the screen a bit. But still, it made sense. Everything she said about the story was clearly there, and so this was great. I mean, I really, really enjoyed this. O minus by Ook. Don't know who Ook is, so Ook needs to tell us who they are. Whoops, sorry about that. So, Ook, wherever you are, talk to us. Okay, all right. So that was that. Now, I'm going to do 2 of these live because we received them late, and then we're going to do the last couple after a short break, and then we should wrap up by 8:30. Okay, so we should wrap up by 8:30. That's the plan. We're going to do a short break, but I'm going to do 2 of these very quickly. We received these late, so make of that what you will. Not late in terms of they got them to us late. They got them to us on time, but it didn't turn out they had problems. They had to go back and fix them. So one of these is Shamari Wheaton. So here's Shamari Wheaton's thing. And it's called Familiar Aura. It says, all great adventures start with a dream. So this is not a bad banner ad. I love the image of the main character. I really like this a lot. Only thing I would say with it is that there's a lot of stuff going on here, and this is not really the way you do an ad of any type. Ads are meant to convey one idea. That's really it. A successful ad can convey one idea. So the fact that she's got coming soon, or he or she, I'm not sure who Shamari Wheaton is, the fact they have a coming soon by Shamari Wheaton, that's useless. It means nothing. So like that if you're creating an ad, trying to put that in the ad just kills it, because it's like it's covering up some artwork, and no one, like, people are not going to check it out because of you. Furthermore, the Familiar Aura piece with the all great adventures start with a dream. You'd be better off having the Familiar Aura, like, creating the ad such that it actually, like, if she's got this weird yellow line, it just seems to take random moves around stuff. Now, I can't help believe that was just something that, just a lack of design sense, because Familiar Aura should have just been all in the black section. And the reason it's not is because the black section curves in. There's no reason for the black section to curve in except for trying to accommodate this weird yellow line. So again, there's some issues with that, but for the most part, I really like the art behind it. So Familiar Aura. See the cover feature here. You can see interesting character designs here for the character next to the African American character. The white character's got this weird thing running down his arm. Let's see here. It's got a pretty interesting character design. It's actually interesting. I mean, a little bit Sephiroth from Final Fantasy, but interesting idea. I like that Osborne has a. So I mean, let's start off the basics. Love the shot of the house. Again, backgrounds, nice to see. We get a little bit of again, not the best lettering job here, but it works for the most part. I mean, the Osborne Barrett 14 could have been moved up. Roscoe, Osborne's dog. Me being a dog owner, dog lover, I think that's great. So then, boy, his dog has a very awesome body structure because it sits up. Look at this. Look how it sits up. Look how this dog sits up, folks. That's a dog for you. So I'm just going to scroll in a little bit here so you guys can see. There you go. Now you get to hear my dog. So, all right, close the door there. Like I said, I like the character design a lot here. In fact, this is some very good-looking artwork. In fact, the cover image does not do some of this artwork justice, because the artwork here is actually quite good. Sorry again for my dog. She's hearing some trick-or-treaters, I think. So, the reason I'm being soft is I'm reading it right now. Interesting. This is really interesting. This was interesting. So not much happens here. Mainly is our main character. I believe his name was Roscoe or Oscar or something. I forget his name. Hackett, maybe. He gets up. He takes his the main character's name is Osborne. Sorry. He gets up, takes his dog out, and then comes across this other character who has this power. and he doesn't like the dog, and then he tries to use his power to intimidate Osborn. Osborn, of course, is not intimidated, and we get to see some of that element of Osborn not being intimidated. And Osborn then talks about how dogs are part of the balance and how that works. And so this is interesting. So this was very interesting. So kudos to Shamari Wheaton there. Again, the artwork looks, I must say, it's quite different from the cover. The cover is not as strong, nor is the turnaround, but the artwork in the story actually worked. So picture is Seven Deadly Sins meets Pokemon, and basically Osborn Barrett and his partner Roscoe, which is a bear club, so that's why it looked like a bear, not a dog. There you go, Frederick. Live in a world where people and animals wield magical powers known as aura. They also can make contacts with animals called familiars. Got a best friend named Kid McKid, and his familiar Ace, a blue jay. He gets in all sorts of mischief. When he's not with Kid, he spends most of his time studying animals and the environment. His dream is to one day become a zoologist, but suddenly his world changes when he starts having these dreams of a young girl. She warns of events that will lead to the resurrection of an ancient evil, which must be stopped. She also says they must gather others who can help. So, intriguing. This was intriguing, I must say. This was very intriguing. So now we get the idea here about all great adventures start with a dream, and then familiar aura. That kind of, no, I don't care for the title too much because familiar is the name of usually a spirit animal, and then aura is what he's calling these kind of spirit animals. So it just kind of seems a bit redundant. But and like I said, and this turnaround is nowhere near as, I mean, this is just kind of, like I said, it's very Sephiroth from Final Fantasy. The character looks kind of odd. It doesn't look quite fully developed yet. When you see the series here, he looks developed in these pictures. It looks, this really good toning. It's, I mean, so yeah, this is weird. Shamari, this is, art-wise, it's very bizarre, because like I said, what I saw from his art from the cover and from the turnaround just don't look nearly as polished as the artwork that's here. This is good. This is good. I mean, this is the short story makes sense. It's touches on the world a little bit. You know, he has a lighter touch with his pencils, so some of the stuff looks a little faded, where it could be maybe a bit more embellished with some inking, but not bad. This is not bad. Not bad. Okay. Okay, let's see here. I thought there was someone else here that I kind of stepped. Oh, Anthony Jackson. That's right. Anthony Jackson. So here's Anthony Jackson. I actually did look at this a little earlier today. It's called Monster Blue. Love the name. Love the name, Monster Blue. Crazy because sanity is boring. And, folks, that is a truism. Just like drinking Mike's Hard Lemonade will make you feel great. It's actually not true. Drinking Starbucks will make you feel great. Neither one of those people endorse us. So we get our main character here, Aja Blue. Immediately, the artwork just grabs you. I think everyone here who's watching this or seeing this can see that the artwork here is very accomplished. As I said before, we just got some great art in. Some of the art from some of these comics are just fantastic. Love this cover. Really like this cover. And we can see Aja's face is pressed up against the glass. And then we get this short story, which, you know, I looked at a little earlier. Again, Shamari and Anthony Jackson both had submitted their stuff. Same as Selwar Farizi had submitted their stuff. It's just that they were in formats we couldn't access, and so we asked them to resend them, or we read them the first time, and then Dropbox has this thing where if you like once I access it, if you don't, you know, if we don't save it, and then you don't necessarily maintain or keep it active, then it disappears. So they have to re-upload it. So anyway, this is some of the stuff here. But regardless, yeah. So yeah, this was good stuff. I mean, you can see here the artwork. I'm just letting you guys kind of check the artwork out real quickly, and then I'll just tell you guys the plot. So this one was something that I actually noticed earlier today when I looked at it and was quite impressed with it. So the story here. This is Inuyasha meets Avatar: The Last Airbender. So we got a lot of Inuyasha love in here. This is the first Avatar mention, by the way, of this test flight. Normally Avatar, Final Fantasy, Naruto, Dragon Ball are the normal things we see mentioned a lot. The story follows Aja Waters, which, so I thought her name was Aja Blue, but it's Aja Waters. He wrote Aja Blue on the turnaround that he did. a 10-year-old monster prince with multiple personality disorder. His family, damn, I thought that was a girl, but it's a guy. His family was famous for its members' hydrokinetic abilities, essentially water telekinesis, folks. Telekinesis. Abilities and heroism across the territory, but in one fell swoop, the Waters dynasty was conquered by a band of barbarians led by Mandar the Savage, and his land was now under siege. Aja was one of the few survivors of the carnage and was left alone with his other personalities to keep him company. The citizens that once loved Aja's family now cursed them for allowing Mandar's savage 7 generals to rule them in tyranny, and now Aja's finds himself with a new goal in life, to build up a band of warriors and take back his land. So we give a little bit of right-wing craziness at the bottom here. He says, "Take back my America." But then we get, so you know, this is an example of a short story and work. When you actually look at the work, that doesn't actually fit with some of the other things there. The concept regarding Aja's multiple personalities, you know, it's there, but it's not nearly. I mean, you know, when you read it from the synopsis, it does come across very much like Avatar, and that's not a good thing. You know, I mean, there are ways to do that without having to get caught up in some of those pieces, but you know, nonetheless, you know, it's a little intriguing here about how they do it and things like that. So the other thing I didn't like as well when I looked at this earlier, but I mean, it was a little. I didn't like basically the concept of this character having multiple personalities. It kind of rubbed me the wrong way because it just seemed too on the nose, a bit too heavy. But nonetheless, it's there, and it works for what it is. On the other hand, one of the things I didn't also like was, while the story here does do its job, it tells a story, we get to learn about the character and so forth, he's got on here, to be continued. I'm like, and as I've said before, you should treat this as if you are literally telling a short story. I mean, there's this concept with a lot of creators who really struggle with this idea. That's why we don't get a lot of test runs, because in their mind they're going to tell a 500 chapter work like One Piece and Naruto, and I have to say, guys, that there's nothing more ridiculous than when you talk to a creator who tells you that, because first of all, no one is doing that. White manga probably is not going to do that. No one's going to do that. Well, number one, you got to produce content on a weekly basis to make that happen. And those guys in Japan who do that have staffs of like 6 or 7 people helping them do it. They're getting paid to do it, by the way. So they're actually making money from Shueisha or Marvel and so forth. Most webcomic people aren't getting paid up front. So when you look at it from all these perspectives, when you are that focused on, well, this is going to continue in my larger epic, I just find that to be just incredibly naive about how the real world is. You may not have, you may have to get a job, you may have a family on the way, you might have to pay, bills that you weren't expecting to have, you might have a medical issue, you might have love issues. In the world of webcomics, these things are death nails to you telling an 500 chapter epic. Not to mention the fact that most people don't even get 5 pages out per week, much less 17 pages per week like the average mangaka. They don't have staffs helping them produce the content. So it's like, I would just love for people to have a great idea and just tell a short story and be happy you told a short story. If you, like as I said before, if you could just tell a Batman short story, like you would find in one of DC Comics Christmas specials, or I bought on Marvel Comics, they had a special on Comixology and I had some credit, so I bought the new Marvel Now Spider-Man issue #1, and the first it was like a 64-page comic for like $5, which is ridiculous. But in the 64-page comic, in part of it, in like the backup stories they had, the backup stories were maybe like 3 or 4, 5, 6, 7 pages, and they had like 4 or 5 backup stories in there, and most of them sucked. But you got the idea. Like, they set up the story, they set up the concept, they set up the characters, and they told a short story in most cases, not every case. But so this is a common thing. And so the idea that people just can't do that, I find just amazing, because that is the whole point of our test run project. It's the whole point of this particular test flight. We'll be doing more test flights like this one, where we say, just tell us a 5-page short story. But just tell a short story. I don't need to be convinced that you've got more stories to tell. I just want to really like what you told. If that happens, then I might be interested in actually checking out the rest of your story. the reason why I'm harping on this is because not only does Anthony put this here at the bottom of his thing, but which is, again, like I said, it's just ridiculous, because like there is no to be continued. Like if we don't choose to work with this, then he can take it somewhere else like other creators, and then maybe he'll do another story with it. But if he's submitting it to us, that means he's following the rules. He's just telling a short story. Just tell the short story. But the other piece, other problem I have with this is that when I read the story, and the story had its problems, when I read the story, my thought when I see this is that, is this why the story had its problems? With how good all this looked, is this the reason that the story kind of had these kind of jumps in pacing or logic? Is because you were like, well, it's just a teaser for the actual story. So because you're hampered by that thinking, you're not actually trying to tell just a short story. You're trying to tell a little teaser and meet our guidelines so you can get it out there. So again, like I said, so this was great. I mean, artwork in this is fantastic, and the concept's not bad. It's not great, but it's not bad. But yeah, like I said, I was really that really bothered me with that little ending part about the to be continued, because it's like, again, that just upends all the kind of interest that might be there for it. Not to mention, I felt it was a little too close to Avatar, both personalities. Which again, like I said, if they were less worried, if Anthony was less worried about the to be continued part, and more focused on the uniqueness of the multiple personalities, which we see in the story. He shows it, but it's only really a glimpse. It doesn't really, he doesn't spend like even a panel or two showing us how he intends to do the multiple personalities. In other words, imagine a scenario where the character is really lovey-dovey with the fox, the fox spirit that's battling, like, oh, you can be my pet, and is loving it because that personality loves animals, and then all of a sudden he starts throwing rocks at the fox comically. Because it's like, I hate animals. It's like that would have been a great way to show the dynamic aspects and how he intends to show these multiple and what they mean, versus just the idea that there's these multiple personalities, a la multiple past lives of Aang from Avatar. Like I said, just that was a little frustrating. But I'll say again, some of the best art that we've seen today is in Monster Blue. Okay, so everyone, that is it. We're going to take a quick break. And I'm going to leave it here for a few minutes on Saturday AM. In fact, I'm going to leave it on the Marketplace page. I've got to take a very quick break and just run downstairs and check something real quickly, and then I will come back up and we'll finish with the remaining entries that came in for this test flight. We had so many test flights in. I want to thank everybody for doing that, because that really tells us that you guys love what we're about and believe in what we're about, and that's just heavily appreciated. But as I said before, we've got a few more entries that we've got to get to. I believe Tafon David and Thomas Vang. That was it. Tafon David and Thomas Vang. So 2 more to go. We will get to those, I promise. Give me 1 minute. Give me a few minutes, and I'll come right back. Again, this is Saturday AM. This is our live Q&A. This is where we do a critique of entries from our private community of amateur creators called PILOT Manga. We are an organization built on building fantastic amateur creators of diversity, meaning different creators from around the world of different ethnicities, sexual orientations, nationalities, genders, and hopefully creating original series that can become the next Avatar, the next Teenage Mutant Turtles, that feature characters who are diverse themselves. So we take our work very seriously. We do this as an opportunity for our fans and for those who want to join us on this revolution. So again, these are things that we do a couple of times a year, and this is our final one of 2015. So you can check out our really cool apparel that we've got here. I'm going to take a very quick break, and I will be back in about 5, and we'll finish up this test flight. Thanks. One last thing, folks. Again, if you have questions, by the way, please post those questions. You can do so on our. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can post it on YouTube. If you're watching it in Google Chrome, if you've got the Chrome OS Hangout, you can app, then you can post it in the Q&A section of that, or you can do it on Facebook. If you're following us as Facebook fans, we have a Facebook page called www.facebook.com/SaturdayAM. or you can do so on our private Facebook page dedicated to Pilot Manga. If you're already a member, just post in there. Again, give me a few minutes. We'll be right back. All right, guys. So we are now back, and we're ready to wrap up these final entries here. So give me one moment here. We'll get everything teed up here. A second here. And I'll give some final announcements at the end of tonight's show. I'll give some final announcements about where we, some important dates that are upcoming in terms of Saturday AM the magazine and the issues and all of that good stuff. So we'll go from there. Let me see here. What else do we have here? And I also see we've got a one question at least. We might have more, but see definitely one. All right, so first is This is one thing I did see is for O minus, that creator is actually named Carlos Morales. So the creator's named Carlos Morales. And let's see here. Okay. Okay. What I'm having to do, guys, I'm having to move some of these creators. For whatever reason, when they sent it to us, they sent it in a slightly different naming convention than we normally ask for. So I had to reorganize these and send them over to another location, and that's what I'm doing now. So Well, push come to shove, I just have to use that there. Let's see here. So I've got to find David's. There's also Nicholas Goodwin. Interesting. All right. All right. We'll talk more about this as well in terms of naming your files correctly, because it really does help us out. When you name it slightly differently, it puts us in a weird position trying to find your stuff, and so that's always a bit more problematic. So let us get to find David's first, and I'll keep looking, see if I can find the other ones here. In fact, here, one moment here, because they were reviewed. Ramen Rider from Thomas Vang was actually pretty funny, and then Nicholas Goodwin had Fallen Angels. So these are three that I've actually all read. Pardon me. Hopefully everybody's having a good Halloween tonight. I hope. Submission. Okay, that's it. So this one is called Submission. There we go. Okay. So I see now what's going on here. Okay. Yeah, these were totally not named correctly, and not just not named correctly, but like they were they were done in a way in which it's hard. Like we can't even move it because these files, we can't move them into another folder because they are just set up. So anyways, got it. All right. Well, let's get started then. Let's start with so I can go a little more alphabetical. We'll go with Nicholas Goodwin, who had a book called Fallen Angel. I'm ready to pull it up now. Okay, all right. So let's see here. I got my notes, and I said that Nicholas's artwork was stunning. Give me a second here. Angel, fallen angel one shot. There we go. Okay, all right. So this is from Nicholas Goodwin. It's called The Fallen Angel. So he didn't provide a pitch. He kind of wrote like a long thing. A lot of heaven and hell stuff. This one was another heaven and hell concept. And this one, I just remember, I just really thought was such a great setup, and it just fell right off the rails for me. So this one is called The Fallen Angel. I said the artwork here is very strong. I mean, very like ridiculously strong. This is whole other level artwork here. This is fantastic. You guys can get glimpses of it here in your window. This is some really good art. Basically, it starts out great. I mean, that was the thing I wrote. I was like, man, this thing started out so good. And it's not in order, by the way. He didn't label it. Like this is one of those creators where we look at this and go, okay, how much work will this creator be? Because there's some real talent here. There's some stuff that is not great, but there's some real talent here. But just about everything that could be wrong was wrong. It was wrong the way the file was set up wrong, the folder was named wrong, the submission came in wrong, the pages aren't labeled correctly, so they're all out of order. I mean, this is this is a question mark of how much do we actually want to work with this creator that we're willing to deal with all the stuff this creator got wrong. That being said, the setup is fantastic. But these thugs they're on a subway. He gets every part of this right, because if you've ever ridden on a subway, it's very packed, and the people there can sometimes be rude or loud and so forth. So he gets all the stuff right. And but then he kind of the one character gets attacks him basically. One of the thugs. I mean, after he's kind of trying to pick up this woman. Where she, refuses to advance, and then someone he thinks tells him to leave her alone. He, intimidates another person. Then he comes to our main character, who's kind of like this religious, like fallen angel type character. And we see here that the fallen angel then, like, he appears, his wings pop out, the guy kind of collapses, and then that's that. So then he takes off here in the final image here. This is next level art. I'll say it again. This is next level artwork. I mean, there's some really great arts here, and the diversity of art that we've seen today is fantastic. But this really is next level stuff. I mean, this is some really solid art. This creator did not provide a turnaround, didn't provide a ad. So like I said, there's a lot of stuff here. We have to look at it from the perspective of just following the basic rules. There's some issues with grammar, but again, this creator I think might be from England. I'm not sure, but there's some grammar issues here. There's no pitch. There's not really a lot of plot in this story. I mean, it's really just that the guys are trying to intimidate this girl, and then this angel guy appears. The story, as we said before, he didn't really provide a plot. It's just a lot of backstory. And I'll hit that backstory real quickly. The angel has fallen onto earth. His crime was heinous. He had committed a sin. This crime was punishable by banishment from heaven. His crime was not sinful. His crime was... When I tell you that this has some of the worst grammar I've ever read, this has some of the worst grammar I've ever read. There's just run-on sentences and stuff. There's no period marks. There's just nothing. So I'm literally reading it to you as I read it. That's one of the notes I wrote as well. He could not understand the logic of showing mercy to sinners, so the master of the heaven banished him to learn how to love in the place where emotions can change in an instant. After his banishment to earth, he began to question the Father of heaven, of heave judgment. He began to think he was sent for a higher purpose, so he began to spread the words of God, but after hundreds of years of preaching, came to the conclusion that humans are sinful and shouldn't be allowed to live if they had sinned, so he dissuaded to go after anyone that have sinned because he is able to see. Literally no period, no question marks, no periods, no commas. It's just one run-on sentence after another. The basic idea, again, fantastic setup of this particular 5-page short story. Ending is nothing special because we don't get any sense of this character other than the fact that he's holy but not. He wings pop out and he takes off. The other character kind of collapses at the spirit of this angel. So I couldn't tell you anything about what this is meant to be, but this artist is unbelievably talented. But he didn't follow any of the rules that we have. So this was one where I'm not really on the fence here. I can't pass this because he didn't follow any of the rules. I hope that this creator, reaches out to us, you know, with some desire to actually want to you know, be an artist, maybe. I don't know, but right now I can just say comfortably that there was so much here that just was so problematic, that this just, again, we're taking this much time to do a test flight, for example, and at the expense of getting No to Heaven ready to appear at 10 o'clock tonight as we advertised, and we're doing this, you know, like the main thing we ask at the very least is that we get people who follow us, who can actually follow with what we're trying to do. Actually, Nicholas Goodwin did write me, so he actually is very young. Well, again, I don't know how young he is. He talks about being 14 and being 16, and so I don't know how old he is, but But regardless, very talented as an artist. Hopefully, he gets back to us regarding art. But for this concept and the short story, we just can't go forward with it just because it missed so many marks here. But again, there's some talent there. Definitely some talent there, without a doubt. Some of the best art that we've seen ever in test flight. So I'm going to stop, and we're now going to pull up the next one in alphabetical order, since, again, these are not labeled correctly. I'm now going down to the very next one, which was called, I think, the submission. No, Stefan's. There we go. Okay. So next one is submission, and that one is by hold on a sec here. Oh, this is Ramen Rider. This is by Thomas Vang. This is Ramen Rider. So this one is very fun. This is a very fun. This was very fun. Just quirky and silly. And so the first thing that I like about this is that this was not a traditional comic. This was just a bunch of strips. So this is what they call 4-koma in Japan. But he says a couple of things to show his art. So this, so the little. What I will say with this is that Thomas Vang is the brother to Samuel Vang, who is participating in our writers challenge and is also working with us potentially on design. And both these men are very, very talented, clearly. But like, you know, but in both cases, I get a sense that there's a bit more like desire to, like, you know, kind of like one of the things I talk about a lot that you got to have with Saturday M is you got to have patience. You got to be professional. These guys are very professional, but there's just a little bit of impatience there because, like, I mean, he's putting a lot of images in here. You guys just show me he's a good artist. But these have nothing to do with Ramen Rider, so this really doesn't have to be in the document. But again, it's like just. You can tell this creator is really pumped and say, hey, look at my stuff. And therein lies a bit of a problem because, again, it's like, you know, we're trying to get material that we actually can see working within our environment. And so this is, like I said, a bunch of stuff here that's, you know, it's not very useful at this stage of the game, but it's here. So anyway, so that's that's the stuff he's got. Now I'm going to open up the PDF, which has actual stuff here. I'll read you guys basically what this is about. Basically, the pitch is Ebenezer Scrooge selling ramen. So that's actually not the pitch. It's Ebenezer Scrooge meets, you know, Bob's Burgers or meets, you know, anything, but it's not quite Ebenezer Scrooge meets selling ramen. That's not quite a pitch. Plot: Ramen Rider lives day to day selling ramen to people, resulting with him disturbing society. This is truly a comic strip. This is not like per se a comic. This is like a comic strip. But this is very fun, though. I mean, you know, he's got just really funny, silly things here. Ramen can be considered gluten-free if the noodles are made from rice flour. Rice flour does not contain any gluten. It's a ramen fact. Then he's got some stuff here. It's called Passing By, is one of his comic strips here. We see Andy. He's a professional cyclist in this world. Then the guy zooms past him. Bash, how dare you pass me? And this is the popular Ramen Rider. He's a not-so-popular hero in this world. So it's just little silly stuff. The jokes don't always land, so let me go to my notes here. It's not as funny as I think as he thinks it is or wants it to be. It's not nearly as funny as it could be. But there is some stuff there, and again, it's such a breath of fresh air. not a lot of background, so the artwork's a tad compromised at times. Although clearly Thomas Mang is talented as an artist. If he's the artist of this, I'm not sure exactly, but he's very talented. Some of it feels a little stiff when you see some of it, like I say, because like this reminds me of Shamari Wheaton stuff, where I saw the cover and like it doesn't fit some of the other stuff. Like some of the stuff doesn't fit like some of the things we saw in some of the other pictures. But at the same time, though, you know, it's there. I'm not sure if it's just a style or what, but it's there. And again, it's for what it is, it works. It's very fun. But again, it's just not quite exactly the right thing it's meant to be there. I wrote some of the notes I wrote here is that plot 4 coma, very interesting, not as funny as I'd like, but you know, because many of the punchlines don't land, but still very decent concept, breath of fresh air. Want to know more? I put why is Ramen Rider a white guy, which is, you know, again, typical sort of manga stuff. I never understand that. I mean, you know, we have very few Asian characters in comic books, so why not have a character who's actually Asian? There's no turnaround, which we'd asked for in the setup of this. The ads, I thought the ad was very fun. I thought it was one of the best ads that we've seen in the entire group. So, again, this is interesting. I can't say that it's 100%, but this is very interesting. This was impressive. So there's that. And then last but not least, let's see here. Crap, let me make sure I did. Oh, damn it, I didn't share it. My bad. Sorry, guys. Oh, crap. I'm getting tired. Let me pull it back up. I'm so sorry, guys. I did not share that. I will share it right now. One second. Okay. All right, so here's the ad. So, like I said, one of the best ads I've seen in the whole thing. It's very straightforward. Here's another one. Check this out. Comic Writer. Again, it's call to action, very straightforward. This is what I was talking about earlier. A bunch of images that just really have nothing to do with it, but it's like this creator is very anxious to get noticed by us, and so he's sending us a lot of stuff, which is fine. It's just, you know, it's like the test flight. We just really want to keep it to the stuff here. This is some of the art. Just showing, it's not quite a turnaround, but it's, you know, showing the basic kind of setup of the character and stuff. Here are the stories. He sent these as a PDF, so this will give you a good example of what it looks like. So we'll check this out, and then we have to find David, and then I'll finish up with some questions and some notes, and then we'll be finished at 9 o'clock, I hope. So you can see here, it's got, this is just, you know, it's really, really good. I mean, the art doesn't always fit some of the stuff that he draws. I mean, you can see here he's got like a ramen fact. And then he's got here passing by. And just, you know, like I said, it's funny. It's not hilarious. It's not as funny as it should be, but it's pretty funny. And I give Thomas Mang a lot of credit for that. This is really interesting stuff. There you go. The Ramen Rider. So very, very cool. Very interesting. Okay. And let's see. Last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, we then go down to find David, October test flight. I'm going to click that. I'm going to pull it up. Banner ads, and we now come to Strayed. So I'm going to read you Strayed real quickly. Where's the call? Where's the light? We are the Strayed. Again, it seems a tad pretentious when I read that title line. As again, just, you know, these are webcomics. This is like comic books. Just, you know, keep it to the point. You know, let's not try to give people this kind of like sense of it being far more dramatic than it needs to be. Because I just think that comes across a bit too hackneyed. But regardless, though, the Strayed, you know, this was interesting. I think there's things in here that made no sense to me, but otherwise than that, you know, it was interesting. So the ad works in terms of the name and the image. The call out doesn't really work for me. Here's the cover. Again, we can see here some very strong art. Some of the character designs here look pretty extraordinary. And so I'm going to read you guys the pitch and stuff. Although the pitch I remember reading the pitch and not thinking it made a lot of sense because it doesn't really fit what you actually read. But the pitch here, it looks like artwork's gorgeous. I mean, artwork is fantastic. Star Wars meets The Last Guardian. So love Star Wars. Of course, it's hot in the news. It's hot in pop culture right now. But then it's meets The Last Guardian. And The Last Guardian, if you guys are not familiar, I think it's the video games, at least what I know it to be. I don't know if it's anything else. So that was a part that really kind of confused me, and I'm still kind of confused as to what it is. He mean like the backgrounds of Last Guardian, the environment of the levels? He doesn't mean the big creature, surely. But anyways, here, so mainly, you know, we get these characters who, they have these beasts, and they come across each other. The basic idea here, Salim is a young man craving for adventure and the thrill of danger. He teams up with Delia, a gifted young woman with a strict notion of life and balance, which I'm not quite sure exactly how to read into that, but again, I don't think Tefon David is from the West, so I'm sure he's doing much better than I would do if I were speaking another language. But still, that comes across kind of odd. I'm not quite sure what he means by that. She struggles with her abilities against a tyrannical general in an action fantasy set in an alternate ancient medieval world. So, you know, all the things I love about this, the character designs, the artwork, phenomenal. Doesn't really get a sense of what this plot is in the story. The characters kind of fight, the fight finishes, and that's kind of it. We meet this Lord Alva character here, who's, again, got a very funky, very cool character design. Let me go back to my notes here and just say, let's see here. One thing I wrote here about this, the turnaround was that I love the stance. The stance is very charismatic. It gives a lot of ideas about who the character is in terms of ways. He's obviously a very powerful individual, a very confident individual with his hands behind his back and stuff. This is a great turnaround. The design itself is a little busy for me. It's like too much stuff going on, but I love the thought that went into the character design for this. The artwork, like I said, absolutely amazing. Just amazing. Dialogue, I said, was relatively useless. I said in some cases the artwork was hidden by useless dialogue. I mean, here's a good example here at the very bottom. I'm not quite sure what this character's doing here in the very last panel, but we got this dialogue that covers up his shoulder and obscures something that is on the other side of this thing. I don't know what this is, but you know, I'm reading, you know, I'm looking at this art thinking, oh my God, I love this art, and then I get to this final panel. I'm trying to figure out what happened because the story doesn't make a lot of sense. And then it basically ends with him saying, "I'll be holding onto your soul blade. Fare thee well, keeper." It's like I don't know what that's covering. I don't know. This is sort of like dialogue and copy that it comes across a tad too pretentious for what it is, and that is unfortunate in terms of what it could be. But you know, regardless though. Bottom line, there's just a lot of interesting elements here that I like. I mean, the world is intriguing. He doesn't give a lot of. He actually has very limited backstory to the setup, so it's hard to tell exactly what happens in the story or what the world is meant to be. I mean, I get that it's an epic, wannabe epic like Star Wars and stuff, and it takes place. Again, I don't know what like I said, there's a lot of stuff here that doesn't make any sense, but I'm intrigued. The artwork alone intrigues me because the character designs here singularly are just awesome. I mean, this one character who's kind of like the bodyguard to Lord Alva, because we see him kind of at the very beginning. He's got this mask on and stuff, and this other character comes to attack. At first, it looks like him, but then he's going to go attack Lord Alva, and we see here as he's getting ready to stab Lord Alva, this other character with the mask on actually attacks him. So it's very, very cool stuff. You know, it's just, I don't know, it's bizarre, but again, I couldn't begin to tell you what happens. There's a lot of stuff here. It's just a lot of kind of old world talking, and not a lot of. They're not revealing a lot. They're doing a lot of kind of old world talking, like "You are Nath. It will take more than conviction to crime against Lord Alva. Your soul is flashy," which I think he may have been flashy, but you are still just an apprentice. Like, it's just so much stuff there, and you're like, just keeping the dialogue basic, keeping the plot basic would be so much better to convince me about this awesome world. I think one thing I'll say is that a lot of people, since he cites Star Wars here, one thing to keep in mind with Star Wars is Star Wars is not Game of Thrones. Star Wars is not Lord of the Rings. We look at some of this stuff today that only exists because of Star Wars. When you go back and look at Star Wars, you realize how simple Star Wars was. Even the dialogue was simple, you know. So that's something I say is it's like a lot of these creators, when you try to squeeze some of this kind of Shakespearean dialogue in this stuff, like I said again, if you're not a skilled writer, you're not a skilled artist, and this is your first time doing this stuff, go Batman. Go Batman. Think about just doing a simple story with a simple dialogue that actually tells a story. If you can do that, you already are light years ahead of just about everybody else who does webcomics. But this stuff of trying to do this ambitious storytelling, it just dies. It just kills whatever flows there, because this artwork is so gorgeous. And had it just had some basic dialogue and maybe a more basic conceit regarding the plot, this would have been easily the winner of this test flight. But this is a little more, it's a little more complex, and not in a good way, like not because it needs to be. So anyways, so that is Stephon David. So I'm going to come back to Saturday AM, and I'm going to answer a couple of questions that you guys may have. You've got them, please get them in. Let me say first of all that I'm not going to provide a winner tonight. I've told you who some people who we're not going to consider going forward, but I'm not going to do a winner tonight. I actually like the idea of you guys being teased out a little bit, so I'm going to hold this until next Saturday. Next Saturday we'll do our writers contest, and we'll reveal the winners of the test flight. So now you have a reason to actually tune into the writers contest. You might learn something. And from that perspective, so there's not going to be a winner revealed tonight. Plus, I'm going to open it up to some other creators, let them look at it. They've been very busy the last couple of weeks, so I'm going to let them take a look and get their comments, and we'll have some more comments regarding some of the works that are here. But I want to say first and foremost that every person who submitted deserves a huge, huge round of applause. Everybody gets a free subscription to Saturday AM. We'll be contacting you guys about that. If you haven't heard from us, one thing I'll say again for these test flights, if you don't hear from us and you know you won something, please drop us a note. It's not hard. You can contact us via info@saturday-am.com, or you can shoot me a note on Facebook. You can post it on Facebook fan page, but it's very easy to get in touch with us, but don't let it linger if you haven't received something. As I said before, a lot of times when you guys send stuff into the test flights, you barely send us information that we can contact you with. You have different names than what your email address is, and all sorts of crazy stuff. So it's it's not that we're like understaffed, which we are, or that we don't care. It's a lot of times you guys don't help us because you don't give us information that actually helps us find you. So if you don't hear from us, just shoot us a note and say, hey, this is who I am, this is what happened, I know I won something, just participating, I'd like to get it. And then we'll take care of it. The prizes that we offer, though, will be a volume of Saturday Tank, and you'll get published in an upcoming Saturday AM. So we will certainly be doing some fun stuff for those who win. So, again, I want to thank everybody participating, because as I've said before, I said with Kenshaw Michaud, who said he wished he had joined, we see a lot of people in Pilot Manga who comment regularly, like they talk about wanting to be a part of the group and things like that. And there's still people who to this day have never actually entered a test flight. And my whole thing about that is but they'll then contact us and want us to actually give them these reviews like I did tonight, which is, like I said, has cost us being able to get No to Heaven out on time. And for me, it's like I can't help but look at this sort of things and just say to myself, again, I say this to you guys, that when I tell all of our creators is something really basic, I can teach you guys the industry, I can teach you guys about how to construct a comic book, how to tell a good story, I can teach you guys a lot of stuff. I cannot, and you will not learn from this experience, ambition. You have to have ambition to succeed in this stuff. No one's going to give it to you. You're not going to learn it through osmosis. You actually have to have it. Ambition means that you contact us. Ambition means that you and contact us in more ways than just like, hey, I've got a great idea for a webcomic that'll make you guys, really, really popular, stuff like that. It means, dropping us notes, going through test flights, trying to join Pilot Manga, and then actually submitting something in test flight. You're not going to get ahead or get to a place you want to be at by not doing that. You absolutely have to do that. So, we definitely say, if you're going to do this, please, really think about what it is you're trying to do, what it is you want to accomplish, because for us, and again, I can only put this in context of Saturday AM, for us, we are built for that serious creator, or that serious fan of the business. Not a fanboy or a fangirl, but a fan of the business of comic books will find success with us, and vice versa. But if you are conflated between trying to do fanboy or fangirl type things and just wanting to put your stuff out there, every other website out there is built for that. We're just not. You would not like it with us, and we would not be very good in terms of trying to deal with you if we have to basically manage your ability to comprehend basic things that we look for and so on and so forth. That just won't work for us. So, the goal, the end game, of course, folks, is not just to either get on our website or to get in our digital magazine. Is to have a book that we, produce and market for you, like these guys here have. Apple Black, Sagami, Bullet Eater, all key series within our digital magazine. Z Forever and Storybook are from our website, and they all have books coming out or out. This is the end game. This should be the end game for you, is this. Because this is where not only do you truly submit yourself as being a published creator, but you actually have a chance to make the most money. But you'll never get to these places if you don't submit in test flight. And we don't do it for our health. Again, we're not doing it for free. I mean, we're doing it for free, but we're not doing it for our health. It adds more work and more stress to our operations than anything else. So if you're sitting there and you're talented and you love what we stand for and you want to be a part of it, there are two things you have to do. You have to let us know you want to join PILOT Manga and try to join it, and you have to enter a test flight. And there's no time limit for you, but I would just say that if you're talented, we got people who are clearly talented in our PILOT Manga group. Otherwise, they have no reason to be there. There's no point to go through all of that and not actually put together a presentation for test flight. So that's what I'll say there. Now, if you got questions, feel free to drop them, to reveal them. I'm going to get to some questions right now. Again, if you want to support our creators that exist, then check out this marketplace page. We've got some fantastic products from books, the T-shirts, logo tees, graphic tees, and we've got our trading cards coming very soon. In fact, these are actually going to the printer this coming week, and as a result of that, if you are a premium subscriber, we will have material, the goods that you're supposed to get, coming very soon to you. It has been several months. We've been very upfront about this. We're producing trading cards, a member card, a T-shirt. You get discounts by being a premium subscriber, and you get a subscription. Now, you've already got a subscription. Everyone who subscribes gets their books. But when it comes to the material like trading cards and stuff, I'll say this till I'm blue in the face, but one of the reasons Saturday AM is what Saturday AM is because we do what most people never do. Like, very few webcomic groups out there make trading cards. In fact, I don't know the ones who do, but I know I've seen people trying to make little trading cards at trade shows and stuff. But we're actually going to be making these to sell. And like this, we went through a whole process for this. We make very high quality T-shirts. We went through a whole process with that. So when you want to get to that level and do these things, for us, like this is the level of seriousness that we take it. And so just like Kickstarter, we appreciate the premium subscribers who send stuff in, and you're going to be getting your stuff before the end of the year. It should be right around Thanksgiving, so it'd be a great Christmas gift back to you. But again, it took us time. It took us a lot of time to make these materials, but they're awesome. You're going to love them. They have all original artwork on the trading cards. We're going to do a video soon for our premium subscribers where we show all the stuff in live video so that they can see what they want to do. And again, if you've not subscribed to us, remember, it's just $5 a year for a basic subscription. It gets you 20 issues a year, and you're guaranteed to get 20 issues a year, plus some extra stuff every now and then. But if you're a premium subscriber, you also get exclusive video chats. We'll be doing those very soon, and those will include tutorials. Those will include tutorials where people will actually analyze your artwork, in live video. So you don't have to wait for a test flight. You can actually access one in scheduled tutorials that we'll do for premium subscribers. So that's everything with Saturday. Let's now get to some questions, comments that have appeared. Let's see, we had a handful of things that popped up there, so give me a second here. Okay. Okay. Okay, so now we've got a question from, so I answered the question from Andre Roberts earlier, who asked about test runs. Are they going to be viewed? Um, and I said, yeah, we're not gonna talk about those. We're not going to talk about those, unfortunately, just because we just don't have the time to talk about them in this video. Again, this video went a lot longer than I wanted to. Kinsho asked about the status on the pre-orders, and that's a great question. So what I can tell you is that let me scroll back over to the book. So Z Forever and Storybook. Well, Z Forever is wrapped, and so that one should be going into production some point next week. We've got some last-minute pre-production things to do, but that is wrapped. Storybook finishes edits and is going through some work, and that should be available here in another couple of weeks as well. Spoon, I expect, should also be finished pretty rapidly. In fact, we're expecting to get final materials for that to be complete by early next week. And Bullied is probably the furthest along, unfortunately. Raymond's still got some work to do on that, but he's working on that as we speak. That's why Bullied has not been in Saturday AM. He's working to try to get the book as best as he can make it, and so that should be maybe closer towards the end of the month. And then Islanders, which we have not put here, Islanders should be available by mid-December. But again, we're holding off until we've got everything in, just like we held off on Spoon until we got materials in, although David assures me he'll have everything in by the start of next week. So that's the general pre-order deal. We will be sending out an email with hard dates here very soon. So if you have pre-ordered, do expect to get those. And again, one of the challenges that we had, and this is again something that I had to explain to the creators about the way that we need to operate, is is that when the creators don't get stuff in the way they need to, or they don't communicate effectively, then the challenge becomes is that then you guys come in and you buy Apple Black, which is available right now, and you buy Bullet Eater and you buy Z Forever, which are pre-orders, and we can ship Apple Black right now. That means that we have to wait until both volumes are available, because otherwise we're now paying extra to do shipping, and it's costing us money, which we never said we do, so we're not going to do that, unfortunately. But again, that's a problem. So that's where I've made it very clear to the creators that so just so you guys know, I mean, I'm tough on our creators every bit as I am tough on the critiques I do in Test Flight. But I made it very clear to creators that they've got to take very seriously how we communicate, because some of the stuff that popped up regarding some of these things not getting done, they just popped up recently to me, and that's not the way it should be. So it's a lot of work to try to manage a lot of different personalities, but we do get it done, and we will have these books out this year. That much I can guarantee. Let's see here. We now go to, and you won't find a better price for the material that we produce than $5 to pre-order the book plus shipping. You won't find a better price. So that's one thing that, while I'm not happy that some of these have been delayed beyond where they should have been delayed, I'm very proud of the quality of the content that we produce. I'm proud of the production values that we instill within these things, and the fact that we have all this stuff done for just $5 a pre-order. That's better than anybody else. So. Okay, so let's see. So that's that. But again, we'll be sending out firm details beyond that. Tantibus Draws asks, pardon me for asking, on account of our test run entries, we'll receive our yes or no answer next week. Yeah, Tantibus, we're trying to go through those and get those cleared up and try to get those produced. I mean, since we're on our break for Saturday AM, we're going to be back into releasing test runs. Sending out the test runs, I mean, on a weekly basis. So test runs should appear on Thursdays on the site. We'll be working to try to make that happen. That's about all I can say for right now. But where you are in the process for that Tantibus, I don't know. So I don't want to tell you the wrong thing. Andre Roberts asked, do you need our email to contact us about our test runs? For the most part, no. I mean, for the most part, no. Now, let me say that one thing that because Andre is a good example of this. One thing I'm not a big fan of are people who try to play both ends of the spectrum, and I applaud you for doing that. But but that doesn't show well when, like, so in the case of Andre's got a test run that he sent to us a while back, and you know, there were some things we liked about it, some things we didn't like about it. But he sends a test run a while back, but then he also sends us a test flight. The test flight, as I said, had some issues with it. There's some things I didn't understand in the story, some things that didn't make sense. And this strikes me like the other thing that I looked at from the young man who did that great water book. I forget the name of it, where the water thing, the Avatar thing, where at the very end of the story, which wasn't a great story, says to be continued. And it's like I see that, and my first thought is, so is the fact that the story seems so kind of put together and it doesn't really have an ending, it doesn't really have a point to, there's not really a short story here, is the reason that's the case because you're trying to sell people on your story, on your overall story that you hope to have it be, and so you were so busy worrying about this bigger series you want to tell that you just basically did something quick for the rules. And I look at Andre in your case and I say, okay, there's the reason why this was not the best test, because the concept was so good, is the reason this is not executed as well as it could have been, with kind of the weird ending and some of the things, or some of the artwork, is because you also did that test run, and so you're kind of focused on the test run or this, whichever one kind of gets you in, because that doesn't, like, that for us is just that's not how we view things. Like I said, we view things very seriously, and we'd rather you give everything to a concept that fails than to try to split the difference between a test flight and a test run. That's why I say a lot to people, like I said, we need volunteers badly. We need designers. We need social media marketers. We need editors. We need letters. We need these things so badly I could scream. But one thing I don't do, one thing I don't accept, is this notion that people come into these individual positions and then at the same time, though, they're like, yeah, well, I really want to be an artist. I really want to be a writer. It's like, you know, it's like we just, because we're not going to be interested in you for either one. We're going to be interested in you for one thing, and that's the thing that we need. We don't actually need writer artists. We're just fine with, you know, Islanders and No to Heaven and Storybook and Spoon and Bully Eater and Apple Black and so on. We're actually quite okay with just those things. We can do a good business just with what we have. So we don't need more writer artists. We do this because we know that you guys are brilliant, you've got great ideas. That's the whole point of why we existed in the first place. And so the idea that we can find more creative stories like the O- story is exciting for us. That's why we do these test flights. Because we want to publish really unique ideas, fun ideas from people who maybe didn't think that they really had a place at the table because they don't normally get talked about as manga creators or anime creators and so on and so forth. We don't do this, again, to be a vehicle for people who are trying to either get more of a boost for their comic that isn't getting a lot of traction or love on Tapastic or Smack Jeeves, nor do we do this as a place where people are trying to figure out exactly what it is they want to do. Because that's, again, we take ourselves too seriously for that. So, again, what I would say in relationship to Andre's question is just, and for people in the future, is that, you know, we're really looking for volunteers who are serious about the business more than anything, period. If you're a designer and you really want to design stuff and you want to be a part of the production of producing a comic book, which, by the way, at the end of the day, you know, a lot, again, this is like the NBA. You know, this is one of those, again, this is one of those truth bombs that no one from Tapastic will tell you, no one from Smack Jeeves will tell you, but I don't care. I say it exactly as it is because black folk already know how tough things are, and I'm black, so I call it like it is. Let me be very clear with you. Being an artist writer and getting paid for it is like getting into the NBA. It's like becoming Cristiano Ronaldo in soccer. The odds of the vast majority of people in test flights, on Tapastic, on Smack Jeeves, within our PILOT Manga group, ever becoming a paid creator of comic books is so astronomically negative that it boggles the mind why anybody would even believe they had a chance at it. It's astronomical, the odds of becoming a paid comic creator where you're getting paid for your art and your writing. It's astronomically bad. The odds are not in your favor. It doesn't matter what your mom told you, what your aunt told you. It doesn't matter what I told you. The odds are very, very bad. On the other hand, if you get your start with a company that's getting its start, designing stuff, learning how to letter, being an editor, being a copywriter, you know, doing all the various pieces that we need that Facebook's not going to pay you for. Facebook only exists because people like you guys are all on the website, and they're worth billions, and you ain't getting a dime of that money. So you already are being used for what you do. But if you actually were serious about that part of it, learning how to do those things with a company that is up and coming, those are skills that actually you have a chance to get paid for. Marvel always needs designers. In fact, they need more designers today than they did when I was in college, precisely because with the advent of their movies becoming so big and then becoming such massive institutions, now they need help designing ads for underwear. They have Marvel superheroes, so they need help designing ads for, and this is real money we're talking about. This ain't play money. DC, Image, they're all looking for editors. Lettering will never go out of importance. Everybody needs letterers. So when I get that question from Andre, again, it's not Andre I'm looking at particular. I'm just using him as an example. But as I said many times throughout this show tonight, I really hope that as many times as I do these shows that it starts to sink in for people that, you know what, if you know that this is not your strongest suit, if your art's not your strongest suit, and you know it's not your strongest suit, I mean, I think most of you guys are smart, so I don't think like you have to be told something that you don't know. You know this stuff. If you know the art's not your strongest suit, or if you know writing's not your strongest suit, like there is no magical unicorn that's going to come your way. The odds of you getting discovered and someone say, hey, you know what, we're going to make an anime based on your thing are so ridiculously astronomical that betting your life on that's crazy. But if you already love this stuff, if you already want to get engaged in it, and you love the business of it, you love the idea that Saturday M is actually doing what you thought, and this is how all the guys who we've kicked out of PILOT Manga who now have their own little Saturday M-like books. The one thing that I love about them when I hear them talk is the notion that they were inspired by what we did because they always had the same idea. And that's true. We all had the same idea. The reason that we're 35 issues into ours is because we took it seriously, and we took it seriously enough to execute and to sacrifice in the execution and to know what we can do and what we can't do. If all those things don't apply to you, then again, you will never nail this whole thing. You've got to be real with yourself first, and then secondly, you've got to be real with what is going to happen in your life. Some of you guys are very young, so you're thinking that this is what life is. It's not. The minute you get a child, the minute you have bills, the minute you have to live on your own, the minute you have to pay for supplies, the minute mom and dad is not there to take care of you, the minute your mother and dad get sick and you got to take care of them, the minute your life changes is when the real work begins. One of our Saturday Plus guys, a guy named Yende Hall, he's taken a very long time to finish Explosion Joe, which is a great concept, but it's taken a very long time to do it. But one thing he said I thought was intriguing. He's like, I now have a better, because Allende was actually quite critical of us, alongside some other people when we did our Apple Black Volume 1. We did our Apple Black Volume 1. We got some criticism. Right, some criticism was correct. A lot of it was from people who we had kicked out of PILOT Manga, so they saw a chance to take a pot shot at us, and they took it. Amit Singh and some of these guys, they took it. And, it is what it is. But bottom line is that, when for us, we know what we do. And that's why people like Jay-Z just do the, brush the dirt off your shoulder type thing, because it really is dirt. It's coming from people who don't know the reality. I'm and those guys, they don't know the reality. They try to do their own magazine, and I don't know if there's a second issue or not, but I know that they now have a respect for what they should have known back then, which was that what we're doing is substantial. It is revolutionary because it's not easy. That's why no one else is doing it. And so Allende was part of that chorus. Then he gets a chance to do his little 30-page comic, and it's taking him literally months to do it. It's not because Allende's partying and so forth. Allende's got a life like everybody else. He's active in school. He's got a lot of stuff he's doing. He's turning in a good comic as well. It's not like he's turning in crap. He's turning in a really good comic. But he wrote the other day, it was a while back, and said he's like, I now have a newfound respect for what you guys do because I now see what you guys are doing. You guys are doing it on a much bigger scale than what I'm doing for Saturday Plus. And that's Allende, who, again, like I said, had been critical of us. He'd been a part of PILOT Manga, got critical of us because of what we did initially in our Apple Black Volume 1. So took a couple of needless pot shots. then got in with his test flight, did the test flight, had the balls to go to do a test flight, got the criticism, got the advice, got the guidance, worked with an editor, produced his comic. It's taken a long time to produce his comic, but he did produce it. It's running inside of Saturday Plus right now. You can read some of it on the site right this second, which is very good. But now he's behind schedule again, and he goes, wait a minute, now I understand. Now I get it. Now I get it. And my point for some of you guys is that it shouldn't take that much process to get it. Like I said, I was 13 years old when I got it. It shouldn't take that long to figure it out. The world you guys occupy today is not the world I occupied. You have competition everywhere. You got robotics, you got artificial intelligence, you got social engineering, social networks. You got so many things that make life easier, but also make it very hard to get a paying job in there. And you want to be a comic book artist and writer? You have to really want it if you want to do all that. And trying to hedge your bets and worrying about whether or not we're going to consider your short story because, you know, it leads into your 80-page epic is the first sign that you don't get it. Worrying about whether or not we're going to value your test run over your test flight shows you don't get it. You've got, you know, an open-ended opportunity with us when you're a part of Pilot Manga. You have all the time in the world that you're willing to invest in a story that you pitch to us. It's either going to excite us or it's not. But the telltale sign of how whether or not you get it is how much you're willing to put into it. Because the work that Allende realized that we put into it every day came after the fact. And some of you guys won't get that luxury. And for those of you who want to make a career of it, like I said, you need to seriously start thinking to yourself about the business and less about the fanboy aspects. You know, being a designer is just as sexy as being an artist. Being an artist of a comic book that nobody reads is certainly not going to make you a paid artist. Being a writer who doesn't know how to actually put proper dialogue in or thinks that they're trying to write Shakespeare and their comic is literally about a character with three chests or with three noses or three eyes or whatever, it's not going to happen. Pilot Manga is built for serious creators, and we expect all of our creators to have a serious mentality when it comes to this stuff. Sending us your entries and they're not following the rules, it's literally like, okay, let me get something in real quickly, and you literally send in like 3 pages. You send in a couple of stories that don't have any text on them. That's not going to help you. There's too many other sites out there with talent that we would love to get, and there's too many sites out there who every day wish they had our brand and our talent. The web is full of people who never attain what they thought they'd attain. We want the people who are destined to attain what they want. And we don't care if it's someone who's destined to be the world's greatest editor, the Jeanette Kahn of DC Comics, who became the president of the company, or Karen Berger of Vertigo, who's a legendary editor in the business, Axel Alonso, who was an editor at Vertigo, who's now the editor-in-chief of Marvel, Chip Kidd, who's one of the world's best designers, Steve Olive, who's one of the world's best colorists. Strive to be the best of something. Don't accept the mediocrity of what you might be doing today. And if that means being in the business, then it means that you need to figure out where you fit in and go for that with everything you've got. Because life's only going to get harder, I can assure you. So let's see. So that is the answer to that. For Andre Roberts is no. We're not going to worry about test flight, test run, and all that stuff. We're just going to contact people as we see fit, or for Tanibus draws, sorry. So Andre asked about his email. So yes, Andre, we'll get an email to you regarding your. I mean, we don't need your email. We've talked with you before. I think on Pilot Manga. We'll send you a messenger or something like that. But everyone will get something for sure. Everyone gets a free subscription, I mean. Let's see. Last but not least here is I did want to come in. They said we won't be having No to Heaven tonight at 10 o'clock, but it will debut tonight or late tonight. So check it out. It's our first horror comic. It is Attack on Titan. It is The Walking Dead. It's going to be huge. I'm so proud of William Brody, who's the artist of that. This is a story that I've written, just like I created Clock Striker. I script Islanders for Leonardo Massif. I mean, I'm very happy with my write. That's why I'm very serious about us getting good writers. Because the vision I have for Saturday is still not quite achieved yet. I want us to have stories that actually matter. And so many webcomic stories don't, and I want us to have stories that actually matter. So you can see here you got all this stuff here, but No to Heaven. This is gonna be a big one, folks. This is gonna be really big. So stay tuned. As soon as it's available, we will contact you guys, and you can check it out. This will be huge. I cannot tell you how awesome the story is going to be. And this is just the first chapter. It's only going to be for a limited time because this will be in Saturday AM. But this is really, really exciting stuff. I'm really proud of the work William did. I'm really happy with the story, and it gets much better past this. Okay, so that is pretty much everything. I'm just checking a couple more places just to make sure that we don't have any other questions or comments, and then that's going to be it. So let's see what we got here. Okay. Okay, let's see here. All right, that appears to be it, guys. So I want to thank everybody for checking it out. Again, such incredible talent. You guys are so incredibly talented. I'm so proud that you guys have honored us by taking what we do seriously enough to even submit your material in. I think I said made it clear in the thing. While a handful of you have a ways to go, Latane Lumford's got some stuff he needs to work on. The one Travis Mason, I think, who had his panels were just way off the mark. Still, there were some amazing things on display in every single one of these presentations, and I hope that I made that clear when I went through every single one of these presentations and pointed out to you guys all the things that were positives, as much as I was realistic with you guys about the things that didn't work. Again, we will reveal the winner of the October test flight next week. We'll also reveal the participants of our writers contest, and that's it. We will have more videos coming soon. In fact, we're working on something big for our YouTube channel, so that'll be coming very soon. But again, thank you guys so much for believing in us and investing your time with us this evening. Thank you so much for that. Enjoy your Halloween. You got a couple hours left. Enjoy it. And don't forget, at some point tonight when you're sitting there watching old horror movies or reading horror stuff online or getting scared by your kids or whatever you're doing, No to Heaven will come. And when it does, I'm going to make a big deal about it. I want you to read it. I want you to pee in your pants. And I want you to type whether or not you were scared. And that's it. So thanks a lot, guys. Thanks again. My name is Frederick Jones, founder of MyFutprint Entertainment, publisher of Saturday AM. Thank you so much for checking us out tonight. It was a real honor and pleasure. Take care.